Yeah, it's 4020 live for a Monday, 29th of October.
Put your hat
live out my hat, yeah. Sorry, I've been learning some Hull phrases from the Kiwis. And some snare is on the way apparently, because we are all thick and northern. That's what the Rugby Football League think of us.
Yeah.
Apart from John, you're not from the north of Sydney or anything, are you?
No, the south. Yeah.
John Davidson's here. Gary Schofield, the man who gets people to resign apparently from Hull if you'll believe League Weekly. That's what it says in the papers. And Phil Kaplan, who's brought us mini rolls.
And a scarf.
And a scarf.
It's only a prop. It's not cold in here.
Join in on Facebook by telling us the microphones don't work or anything like that. And on YouTube. Hopefully the Facebook works for the whole show. So I'm taking the hat off, it looks stupid.
Yes.
I mean, in fairness, my niece bought me that for my birthday, so I should have treated it with a bit more respect, but there you go. And I think we should start off, before we get into the whole everything's crap debate, because we are the independent voice of Rugby League, you realise this? Alternative and independence, and all those words, and everyone else are cheerleaders in the media. But we are going to cheerlead England's performance because they won the first test against New Zealand. Let's start with a man who was there. Gary Schofield. Former England international. How did they do?
Well, I thought they did very well, to be honest with you, because, as I say, when the side was selected, first of all, the question, Percival, why isn't Percival playing? As we all know, realistically, the way that he's played, his form has been sensational in the dream team. Everybody was asking the question again, why isn't Wayne Bennett picking him? He went for Connor, went for Gildart in the end. Proved correct. So what I would say for Percival, to be honest with you fellas, he might as well be sat with us, because if a coach doesn't like you, it doesn't matter how good you are, what form you show. And then I know Phil will come in and say, well, it might be about his attitude. Well, at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, it's all about form. If you would have asked, I would say, 50 pundits, they would have all had Percival in that side. So Wayne Bennett's got his reason, justified as well the way that Connor and Gildart played. Again, the big question was picking Tompkins at number 7 and Williams at work in progress. Certainly work in progress, but one thing for sure, I felt as though they did very, very well on Saturday. The forward pack again, outstanding. The impact of the bench, outstanding from there. And I'm very happy that England played very well. And from a point of view in New Zealand, the way I was disappointed, when you saw them 2 weeks ago, kicking the Australian backsides, Mr. Davidson, and kicked the scoreline didn't justify. The scoreline didn't justify the game at what quality the New Zealand was. New Zealand on Sunday played how they normally do against Australia by taking them up around the ruck area, We don't get tied around the ruck area anymore. The players are better quality because it's mainly a pack of forwards who play in the NRL. So I felt as though the Kiwis didn't play the right game plan. If they'd have played the same sort of game plan against the Aussies, might have been a different story. They didn't. Our boys didn't get intimidated, took the opportunities when they came along, and fully justified. And I tell you, if the Kiwis do not change their game plan, this would be an England whitewash 3-0.
I have to say that I thought our warm-up game against France stood us in perfect stead for that game. That's why. No, it was a proper test match, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think the first hour was, quite physical, dour, breaking a team down. There actually was some good ball movement from the New Zealand halves in that first hour. But what impressed me was not only Gildart's try, which quite rightly graced the evening news and should have done, because to score a try like that on your debut, that'll live with him forever, and it'll be a constantly replayed image. I think the last 5 minutes was really important, because in so many of those games, England haven't had that mentality and intensity to take it right to the end. I think there were a few collective intakes of breath when Sean Johnson got his hands on the ball with the penultimate set. We're going, here we go again. But actually, England got stronger as the game went on, and New Zealand seemed to fall off the intensity a little bit. But that might be because they've travelled over here. First test, they're going to probably be less conditioned than they will be as the series goes on. I think it sets it up perfectly. It was a proper test match. Felt like sides numbers 2 and 3 in the world going at it. Kiwis have to come out now at Anfield next Sunday, play a different game because they've got to win it. And actually, I think the game itself was actually the high point of a lot of things around it that we genuinely should be slightly concerned
Phil,
about.
can I just contradict you there a little bit? Sides 2 and 3 in the world. The Australian kicked the Australian backside 2 weeks ago. We've just beaten New Zealand who kicked those. Hey, listen, This may be 1 and 2 in the world. Australia, I tell you.
Are we using that maths?
Australia, I'm telling you.
I think it's a maths.
They're going.
Where, even though you hold the World Cup for 4 years.
He's drawn a Venn diagram. And
you're only as good as your last game, fellas. You're only as good as your last game.
The new rankings will be out in the middle of December, and I still think Australia will be more.
Bad news for our YouTube viewers. They're all upset because initially you couldn't see Schoey, but now to move the camera.
And they're even more upset.
Yeah, they are actually, yeah. Move the camera back, says Phil. Lock Lane says, spoil sport because I moved it. David says, was just about to say couldn't see Schoey, not to complain, rather to compliment. Hello to Paul in Moscow. I should say, because I've forgotten, because Shambles starts the programme because I'm in charge today. Best wishes to our loyal viewer, Stephen Cram, not very well in LGI at the moment. He's a long time contributor to the show, big Wakefield fan, always praising Michael Carter and Chris Chester and trying to get Schoey a job. So we appreciate him for that. Stephen, our best wishes are with you and your family, and we hope you're back with us soon indeed. Elsewhere, Paul on the game. Let's not get carried away. New Zealand weren't firing on all cylinders.
Well, you wouldn't expect them to in the first game out of 3, but the fact that we didn't know what the result was going to be until the final who to win, that's what you want from Test match football.
It was a proper Test match.
It
went right down to the wire. Both teams went at it. England took their opportunities. I think in the past we've seen England perhaps not mentally strong enough to close those games out. You know, they've dropped off in the last. They didn't do that. You know, Gildart's try was fantastic. Embarrassed with Tenny's, isn't he? The way he stood him up. I mean, you would have thought he had all the time in the world to make that tackle, and he just
Well, when you watch the fullback from there, you felt as though, hold on here, you're not really showing
No,
much enthusiasm.
exactly, yeah.
You're not getting yourself. You as a fullback, really, he should have been showing him the outside. You know, Gildart was there. The fullback should have been there. Gildart's there. He should have been showing him the outside. But hey, listen, this young kid, he's got plenty of pace, and he's delighted that he's got called up to the England squad. But also as well, I'd like to give praise to the referee, Robert Hicks. I know people are saying, "No, well, there were high tackles. It wouldn't happen in Super League." Yeah, listen, this is Test football. You know, and you get away with a bit more.
You shouldn't, but you've got to let the game flow.
Absolutely. You know, if that's the way they want to referee, let them referee. But the good thing about that, right? The players will know. Right? If that's the way it's going to be, right then, let's get ripped in. It's a proper Test match.
And I also think that the selection was not only justified, but actually was right as well. He wanted to play Connor, but he didn't want to play him in the halves. He wanted a Wigan combination. And if you look at the way Gildart finished the season, particularly the way he played in the grand final, he's picking a guy on form, so you can't really criticise the England coach for picking a bloke on form. I think he's also looking at the next World Cup.
Phil, let me ask you a question then.
Percival may well be involved in the next World Cup.
If you was picking the England side, would you have picked Percival?
No, but yes, I probably would. But we're not inside the camp in the build-up to the game. The way Wayne Bennett wants England to play, I think was justified by the result, and I think Gildart was one of the shining lights. The other one was just been announced as on the extended Golden Boot shortlist. I just thought Bateman's offload for that try was fantastic. Because the finish was so good, not enough was paid to getting Gildart the ball in the first place. If anybody hasn't heard, Bateman has been added, Whitehead. Tommy Makinson on the Golden Boot list.
The interesting thing too with Bateman though is that it was his mistake that Nicarima, got round him and laid off that pass, but he did make up with that offload.
He thought he was playing in the centre.
Yeah, and I think he had a really great game apart from that mistake.
Well,
and obviously, set up the
to be honest with you, fellas, you've got to give praise to Nicarima because he thought, I've got a second rower here. All I'm going to do, I'm just going to dance on the outside of him. Yeah. Just suck the defenders. It was too easy. It was smart play. It was smart play from Nicarima, realising it was a second rower who was marking him from there.
I also thought the first try with the pass inside. Again, there's some creativity in that New Zealand team. It was a little bit off as the game finished. They couldn't come up with a champion play at the end. But no doubt we'll talk about how many are expected for the second game. On the basis of what was on the pitch, there should be a lot of people at Anfield next Sunday.
And also credit to Tommy Makinson. I think a lot of people were saying Tom Johnston hat-trick against France has been Tommy Makinson didn't make a mistake, did he? High balls all game. Won the ball to set up the first try. He was brilliant.
Oh yeah, and see when you looked at the impact and all, I thought Chris Hill was outstanding. Some of his passing game, and also Luke Thompson. Tell you what, doesn't he get ripped in? Yeah, he puts his body on the line from there, and you know what? He looks as though he'd been playing Test football for around about 3 or 4 years, didn't he?
And arguably playing the biggest pack in Test Rugby League,
except for Tonga.
Tonga, yes, they're not small, are they?
Yet to meet a small Tongan, yeah.
You can see Luke Thompson and Jake Connor, Darling Wateni Zelezniak, nearly, and Oliver Gildart on our Facebook page, facebook.com, search for 4020 magazine, also on YouTube, on the 4020 Live.
And hats off to Mr. Gildart, who did our interview.
Yes.
It was waiting to be drug tested, needed to produce what they drug test, but did our interview first before rushing off to the rum and the bottle.
So we could go on.
Thank you, Oliver.
And other people had to stay, which is quite funny. Peter says it was a good game, a good old-fashioned test match, bit of rough and tumble, great tries. Luke says he prefers Gildart over Percival. How Lynn was picked over him initially, well, it's down to the boss.
Well, I think that was a good game to give Lynn a run out at international level.
Andy says, if that was Union at Twickenham, everyone would be raving about it. Feel sorry for the players having to play in front of a crowd like that. No wonder they look elsewhere. We'll get onto that, Andy, later. Paul looking to pick Tom Johnston in form over Jermaine McGilvey, who he says isn't in form because he's got the experience, hasn't he? And after the World Cup, it'd be very difficult to drop him, wouldn't it?
Made a lot of meters as well.
Yeah, he plays the style of play what Wayne Bennett wants to, doesn't he? You know, and they say you can't. McGilvey's form, certainly international level, we just cannot fault. You know, all right, he dropped that ball when he played the ball in the first half, put us under pressure. But overall, you know, his play at international level has been very, very consistent. And when you look at it, you know, I like to judge players, you know, out of 10. You look at McGilvey, certainly he's always between a 7 and an 8 every game he's played at international level.
Obviously, it's a different situation for you when you got into the international setup as a very young player. But Tom Johnston, even if he doesn't play in these test matches against the Kiwis, he's going to certainly learn a lot going back into Wakefield next season.
Well, he's not only going to learn. The fact of the matter is, what he's got to know, what he's got to realise is he's got to be consistent week in and week out. You know, and I know people say, well, is a lesser club in Wakefield from there, but I don't buy into that scenario. You know, I think if he gets the right service, he'll be scoring the tries. He will guarantee you, Johnson. If he gets the right service, he will guarantee you 20 tries a season from there. So if he knows that he's got to get to a consistent level. But one thing for sure, if Tom does get an opportunity, well, he might say, well, I got an opportunity against France. I scored 3 tries and I still haven't been selected. But it's one position where we're not weak, isn't it? You know, we look at the fullbacks, we look at the hookers, we look at the wingers. We're not weak from there. So if he gets the opportunity, as he did against France, he won't look out of place in England jersey, whether he's playing France, New Zealand or Australia.
That's the important thing there. I think you're talking about depth, and you look at the team that almost beat Australia in the World Cup final. No Sam Burgess, no Widdop, no Ryan Hall, no Watkins,
no Sean
no
Sean
Walmsley,
he only did
no
10
Ben,
minutes.
no Ben Curry, no Luke Gale, no Kevin Brown. So that's a really good sign. And England can be missing, you know, basically half a team and still beat, you know, basically a full strength New Zealand. I don't think they're missing anyone.
Nelson Nussel for Solomon.
Because this is what
your love, your crush.
I know we're talking about the Kiwis here, John, but I'm not getting carried away here. I'm just
no,
wishing,
you're not getting carried away.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm not getting carried away here, but I'm just wishing. I'm just wishing it were the Aussies over here for an Ashes series, because you know what? The way you guys are, you got a good forward pack, you got a decent, you know, back line from a point of view where you
Decent
centre.
back line?
You centres and your wingers and your full back, but you've no half-backs. If we had you over here now playing the Ashes series, it'd be the first time we win the Ashes in 1970. We'd kick your backsides now. We would.
Yeah, I love the confidence.
We would. We'd kick your backsides.
We would. You haven't beaten Australia in
I know we
decades.
haven't. But I tell you what, if we had you now, we would have you on toast.
We've got to do
We'd have you on
talking
toast.
on the pitch, Schoey.
We'd have you on toast, Dave. Well, we'd have you on toast.
Interesting that Wayne Bennett said, did we as a nation realise how good a team we've got?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really fair question. That, yeah, we can talk about team selections. You've just picked almost a second team, which is fantastic. Do we realise how good a team we've potentially got? You say we could beat Australia. You know, should we not be shouting this from the rooftops?
Oh, why not? Why should we be?
Wouldn't that get more people through the gate?
But Phil, the situation is, we need an international calendar put in place and letting people know, you know, where we're
It's
going.
not just the calendar.
Well, where are we
That's
going next
just
year?
one
The
part.
Lions on tour.
We look at the other internationals that are going this week, and I wrote a story the week before. Scotland, hardly any Super League players. Their clubs have stopped their players.
Well, that's
playing.
wrong.
Exactly, but that's what I mean. It's not just the top 3. We need all the countries. to have their
Exactly,
players.
John. This is what we said last week. You know, with the international scene, because it's a
Yeah.
pinnacle of anybody's career.
Yeah.
It's a pinnacle of even supporters going, watch. There's no better. Well, like when we look at the other code now, we'll see that this week. You know, they could sell their ground out 4 or 5 times. We all know that now. But what the clubs have to do they have to respect the international calendar, and they have to respect what the players want. I know they're in charge of them and they pay their wages and this sort of thing, but it's totally wrong. If we are looking to take rugby league seriously from an international point of view, all the players have to be made available.
I think
I agree.
The other thing
it's not happening. It's unfortunate.
Well, they need telling.
The other thing that was heartening this weekend, I thought the Knights, a fantastic performance in PNG, 36 degrees, nearly 80% humidity. I think no let up from arguably the most ferocious forward pack in the league. They're certainly not the biggest, but they don't go away. They do like belting people. And I know it was down to goal kicks was the difference, but to stand up for half an hour and not concede a point in the second half, again, some stars coming through with that team. And adding the women who had a really good win in France. If only we could have watched that as it was on the same time as the men. England Rugby League is looking really strong. So before we get into the ancillary debates,
yes, still
post the game, it was set up that someone from the hierarchy of the RFL would come and give some copy to the Monday papers. Now, on the back of the fact that we've had 3 consecutive victories by England teams at varying levels, in the knowledge that ticket sales are a little bit slow for the next 2 games, should that message just have been reinforcing what Wayne Bennett said about, do you know how good a team you've got? Really can't wait for this all to happen again in a week's time. It's going to be the hottest ticket in town, rather than say, be nice if a few people turned up. And I've spoke to those nice Herne chaps because we can't do our job properly, and we need them.
Hopefully we get 25,000 in a 55,000 seat stadium.
Is that not the Ratner mentality of trying to sell the game? Surely the action should have been commented on and not anything else.
Phil, we talk about it every week, don't we? You know, advertising and promoting the greatest game of all, and we just don't do it. And
no, we don't get many opportunities to do it. And my argument would be that was the time for a real positive statement about the international game. I'm not really sure.
Well, at the end of the day, it's like anything in marketing. It doesn't matter whichever sport you follow or in business. If you don't tell people what's going on, if people don't know, they're not going to go.
I don't buy into that. In this particular test that we've just had, we took the game to a 25,000-seater stadium in the heart of rugby league territory with 2 clubs playing in that city. So no blame attached to the supporters of those 2 clubs, because they must have provided 90% of the people who were there. So I think we've got a really different issue, and I don't know if you want to start talking about other stuff, or you want to get some more reaction on the game before we do.
People on the game, people asking what's going to happen next with Sean O'Loughlin. Obviously went off injured. We don't know the extent of that injury.
Pulled calf, we reckon.
Is that the end of him at international level? Who's the next captain off the rank?
That's the other point. Just jumping into what Phil was saying, I was talking to a journalist coming in. Wayne Bennett's not up to speak to the media until Thursday. So we're not going to update on the captain's fitness until Thursday, and the game is on a Saturday. Is that right? I don't know.
Wayne Bennett. A couple of people have asked about this. David's been on. Why is Wayne Bennett always so miserable when he's being interviewed? Because he has to speak to us. I hope he generates more enthusiasm in the change room before the game. Else the players will be suicidal before they play.
John and I can probably help with this.
Yes. The other Wayne Bennett.
We were very fortunate to spend an evening in his company in Bradford last Thursday, where he clearly and quite rightly said, this is not an official press engagement, and we saw a hint of the real Wayne Bennett. I think he was funny. He was engaging. He was a little bit controversial. He talked about his philosophies, which were really interesting, and you could see why players buy into it.
Yes.
That was the Wayne Bennett that I think we got a slight insight as to why he's got such loyalty and respect from the guys. I don't know what you thought of him, and you spent even more time with him than I did, but I just thought, that's the guy that the players relate to, that he doesn't want us to see, which is part of his role.
Yeah, my opinion of Wayne changed completely. I mean, you sort of have the times when you interview him at a press conference and he won't give you much, and last year at the World Cup you throw the occasional snippet and you see some of the things he's done off the field or with certain clubs which you might not agree with, but to actually spend time with him and, as he explained, he is an introvert.
Yep.
He'd rather be over in the corner watching everyone else not engaging, but he was fantastic. Really, I mean, credit to Bradford For he came as an event to help raise money for their academy and their squad builder, which was great. And he spoke really passionately and honestly about the game in England. His affection for it growing up. He talked about his coaching moves now at South, but also where the game needs to change. Because there was questions from the floor, and the answers were fantastic. It just would be great if he could have maybe done something before the first test.
I think you'll find some of that might be in the next issue of 4020 for those who weren't there.
Yeah, but also too, with Wayne Bennett, it's quite simple. You don't have a coaching record like his if you don't. If the players don't respect you, he doesn't get the best out of the players, because I know from a point of view, and I say he's man management. From a point of view, single-handedly with individuals, that's how he gets the best out of players. Every player will tell you he speaks to me as an individual. Well,
I think
that's how you get response from players.
His decision not to play players, whoever they are, is based on part of that relationship, and that's the bit we don't see. But speaking to Tommy Makinson, who he clearly likes after the game, Makinson has just said he makes him feel 10 feet tall with everything that he says to him, and the confidence that he expresses in the way Makinson plays. Makinson actually said, I would play in any position for this England team. I'd even play prop. I know I'd get belted, but if Wayne wanted me to, that's the relationship I've got with him.
Well, any player would be the same than playing any position for your country.
But I think that for the guy to just take you aside, who doesn't normally say a lot, and say, do you know what, I think you're a really good player, they clearly respond to it.
I tell you what, though, it will be interesting.
I get the point from.
But you know what, though, Phil?
We don't see that.
But I tell you what, it would be interesting whether Percival will tell us. When the series is over, I would imagine if he does a book, he might tell us his relationship with Wayne Bennett. But I wonder what Wayne is saying to Percival. It's like when you look at the other code, right? And he's the best player in the other code at this moment in time at club level. Is Cipriani. He's brilliant for Gloucester. His defence is good. His attacking good. His kicking game's good. His vision and awareness is good. But
apart from when he's on the Otley run.
But he's not good crossing streets.
But all Eddie Jones says about Cipriani, he says, well, I've said to him he's got to work on a couple of things. Well, what? He's the best player.
Can't tackle.
It might not be on the field.
You don't have to worry about tackling a halfback. What if you're scoring all the points? What's defence got to do with it, Mr. Davidson? What I'm saying is, Phil, is from Percival's point of view, I wonder why Wayne is not selected and what he's saying to Percival. The reason why he's not picking him. That's an interesting one, though, isn't it?
He didn't select him against Samoa. And he didn't.
Well, you've got some inside information because you always keep saying, it's his attitude.
I just wondered whether not.
You've been told.
I just wonder whether in training there's something that Wayne.
You're not just saying that and making that. You're saying that for a reason. You've found out something about that because you've mentioned it. You've mentioned it all the time about Samoa. Why we're left out. You found something out there that's it. Bennett's left him out because of his attitude.
Wayne is everything is really short, sharp, and intense with Wayne. And if you can't keep
spent 10 days with him. I know it is.
I'm not talking about going to the fridge and getting a beer.
No, I can tell you now. I was there for 10 days, and to be honest with you, the intensity did my head in because I'm not that sort of person.
Maybe you would have been up with him every morning 6 a.m. going for road runs.
Maybe you've just answered your own question. Maybe Mark Percival isn't that sort of person.
But it doesn't stop him being a good player.
Just saying.
Doesn't stop him being a quality player.
Wayne doesn't just judge it on your ability on the field. It's
as he was telling us on the table they were on when he went back to Brisbane. I think it was 2014, and he cleaned out a lot of the so-called bad eggs. One of them, Ben Barber, Martin Kennedy.
He did it with a king, didn't he? When it was there, and with the
he's famous, and he actually said this. I think the open mic Phil can. He's famous for saying, and he said this about his coaching career, he'll retire a year early instead of going on. And what he used to do with his players, and I think he's fallen out with some of those great players. Like Wally Lewis couldn't tell us, he taps him on the shoulder maybe a year before instead of playing a year on. Because you could look at, say, Jonathan Thurston this year. Should he have played on this year? Didn't, wasn't at the same level that he usually did.
Was it him or was it the players around him? Because he still had the most assists in the NRL.
But also as well, I think one of the smartest moves he's done is everybody thought, no, what's he doing this for? When he brought Alfie back for that State of Origin game, remember? As a one-off, he saw something in Alfie where he needed to win that game and say, you know what? There's only one player in this world who's a Queenslander who could get me the victory.
We're not talking about. I'm still getting over that.
I'm not saying because he do South Wales, but obviously Wayne sees something in them individually where at that moment in time they can do that job what he wants them to do, and that's an art. There's not so many people like that.
You're a student of the NRL. There's been 4 coaching changes almost simultaneously. all teams that were in the top 8, which you would have assumed if it had been down
It's
at the
been
bottom.
5, really.
We'll
include Manly in there.
No, we don't include Manly in anything. But there's been 4 who've swapped effectively.
Yeah.
Has that happened before? Are you surprised that Souths would want Wayne Bennett going into his 70s? And
Yes and no. It's not happened since the Super League war when we had new clubs start up and clubs going under and swapping. Like it is crazy. I think carousel was the best word for it. To have basically, and I think Wayne will, from what he was saying, he will serve out his year at Brisbane and see Bob will stay at South, even though they know they're swapping. But no, it is crazy. And you've got Ivan Cleary, who was sacked by Phil Gould 2 years ago and going back to Penrith.
Is he still staying at Penrith, Goldie?
Yeah, well, he's the general man. He's the Gary Headley. Yeah. He pulls the strings. So he got rid of Anthony Griffin. He's going to bring Ivan back basically because he wants to coach his son, who's kind of a handy halfback.
Well, I want to coach my son, but I never got. How does that work?
I don't think your son was on $1 million.
Was that down to you or your son, though? Every club he was at, they didn't want you as coach.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, all right, Phil, I'd do the funnies. All right, a bit harsh, Phil. It's not picking on me.
But the end result is that David Fenner is coming to lead, so that's a good thing from the Rhinos.
Well, I tell you what, you're a Manly man as well. We're just talking about the coaches.
Desi's back.
What the hell are you doing, bringing Desi back? What are you doing, Davo? You doing what you know?
He did win 2 grand finals.
I tell you, you'll have the wooden spoon next year.
Well,
you'll have the wooden spoon, Dave.
I was listening.
You Silvertails, you'll have the wooden spoon next year.
I was listening to the show last week, and you mentioned that Manly had been bad for 4 or 5 years. We did make the semis last year. I think we finished 6 or 7. So already you were wrong on that quote.
This year, you didn't finish
last
in the semi.
year.
This season you didn't.
Yeah, but you said we were bad.
Oh,
for
listen,
4 or
mate,
5
not as
years.
good as your last season. You was hopeless. You was hopeless.
Last game, last
season.
season.
I'll have a kiddie with you, then you'll finish you'll be wooden spoons next year.
Do you know how many wooden spoons Manly have got since 1947?
None.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's why you support. You're like every other Silvertail supporter. Yeah, you're glory supporter.
See, this is the thing, though.
You're from Newcastle. Why do you support Manly?
Because my mum's family's all from Manly, and Newcastle didn't have a team.
Rubbish.
And he came in at 88.
Rubbish, Davo.
Schoey's now been sacked as our predicting person because the Sega Mega Drive game from 23 years ago got the result spot on. 18-16 it said it was going to be, and that's exactly what it was.
Brilliant.
England's last tackle plays. Josh Hodgson's kicking game has been getting lessons from John Wilkin.
Well,
Sorry, John, if you're watching.
Well, do you know what, right? Josh Hodgson is a sensational hooker, sensational player. But for whatever reason, when he puts an England shirt on, after about 45, 50 minutes, he wants to be the main playmaker, he wants to be the main kicker, he wants to be the main organiser. And I'm thinking, hold on, Josh, that's not your position. He gets the first man, he's too slow, his thought process is too slow from that. What he needs to concentrate more, unless that's a philosophy of way he wants to bring into him. But what I saw again on Saturday with what I saw at the World Cup, that's why Luke Gale is non-existent when he plays with Josh Hodgson, because he wants to take over everything after about 45, 50, 55 minutes and start taking control. That's what and we seem to lose our shape because Sam went out of the game, George went out of the game for about 10 and 15 minutes because he thought he was the main organiser, and that's not his role. We lost our team shape from there, so if I have a bit of a critic of Josh Hodgson from that, that's a part of his game. But apart from that, from the hooking role, his defensive wise, all right, he wasn't looking when Chris Hill were looking to offload him. He was organising.
That was funny.
He was organising. But as far as the quality,
he was complaining.
as far as a quality hooker goes, as he does for Canberra, that's what he needs to stick to instead of trying to be, the main organiser, because we lose our shape.
But
when
again,
he starts taking control.
He hasn't played at that level for a long time. It's 5 or 6
Well, it's not the first time. He did it in the World Cup goal last year.
Yeah, I think having Darryl Clark on the bench, though, you can change that if you see that happening.
But what I'm saying is, Phil, then he thinks he's the main creator. We lost our shape when he started doing that. And he kicked the ball 3 times, didn't he? I tell you what, you could have kicked the ball better than 3 times when he kicked. Honestly.
I don't know
he wants to leave it alone because he's the quality hooker. Sensational hooker, actually.
Phil's brought me in a load of Wakefield programs, which is great. And I've put this one on the front because for a whole season, Wakefield spelt their own name wrong on their own programs.
On the front page?
Yeah.
Oh, that's ironic.
Tintiy.
Hey, Richard, do you want to tell our listeners about the programme what's to win tonight?
We've got a prize on the front of the desk.
So
exclusively, there's only 3 of these in the world. I've got one of them.
You better be kind to me tonight because it was me who brought it in. So if you're not kind to me, you won't get it.
2 of them are here. Signed by.
That rules out David.
Signed by myself. Signed by Neil Fox, MBE. Signed by Johnny Whiteley, MBE. and also to Malcolm Reilly, OBE.
So 4 Rugby League Hall of Famers.
So somebody can win that signed programme from the Test match on Saturday.
If you can rub out Schoey's name, might be worth something.
Darrell Clark unlucky not to be on earlier then?
I don't think so.
I think that worked.
Yeah, I don't think so. To be honest with you, I don't buy into this where they only play so many minutes and you got to bring them off. The team shape was good, and everything would just worked as well as what it could have done. But if I had to be a little bit critical, again, it's just a role what he plays Hodgson when he thinks he has to be the main playmaker. Stick to what you do best, Josh. That is being a good hooker, great service, making the right decision with your passing, making the right decision to scoot from there, because we lost our share.
When you've got people like Luke Thompson, Tom Burgess
How good is he?
running off those passes.
Chris Hill. Oh yeah, absolutely. They were making easy yards all the time. And how hard does he run Luke Thompson? He looks to be playing Test football for 2 or 3 years.
The interesting thing now is the Kiwis will have reviewed that by now. They'll have looked at people perhaps they didn't know as well as they thought, like Thompson. They are a big, mean, horrible pack.
You
Kiwis.
look at the stats.
It'll be a very different game.
They should have won the game.
Yeah. Well,
because I think
for the
England
first
made
hour,
100 more tackles. New Zealand made 200, 250 more metres. And it was a very tight game. So they'll be looking at it and say, we should have nicked that at the end. We didn't. We've got to.
You statsman, Dave. I'll tell you what the most important stat is.
I can add up.
What's the most important stat?
The scoreboard.
Correct. So stop going about tackles and yardage rubbish. It's all about the scoreboard, son.
So if you want to win this exciting prize, how much did the programmes cost this week? £5. So at least worth £5.50.
And the four signatures. Oh, you're a bit harsh.
The signatures are worth more.
What, you've got Schofield, you've got Fox, you've got Reilly and Johnny Whiteley on there. Johnny Whiteley's going to be inducted to the new Hall of Fame next week.
Yeah, we need to talk about that later as well. Just tweet us, retweet the video, share the video on Facebook, and however you do it on YouTube as well. We'll just go through all the comments afterwards and draw a couple out. We've got a couple of them, so we'll get one of those potentially to you in the post at some point in the future. Have we pretty much gone through the England-New Zealand game and talked positively for about half an hour?
Yes.
I think so. We've had
Right, so let's join the negative part of the programme now. Because we're not rugby league cheerleaders. We're not that part of the media, because I want to tell people, they might not know, but a rugby league civil war is about to occur and the sides are being divided behind the lines between the RFL and Super League. It's going to be interesting in the next few weeks and months when people are announced in new roles at Super League, won't it? He says, tapping on his nose like that. So don't believe everything you read and all that. Of course, I'm not going for the job because I've got a record of 0-2 in applying for jobs in rugby league. I just got here because I tagged along with Mark once and they didn't get rid of me yet. Why weren't there lots of people at the rugby league on Saturday, the first test of the series against New Zealand, the second best team versus the third best team in the world in the hotbed of rugby league that is Hull, a city which loves New Zealanders because they signed some 30 odd years ago, and yet there was swathes of empty seats.
I think there are some specific issues about that, not least the fact that there clearly is a disconnect between the audience and the national team at the moment. I think we've spent a lot of time, starting in Steve McNamara's era, breaking down club barriers for Club England. Not sure we've done that off the field at the moment. I think you could tell that by there were very few people wearing England apparel. Now that might be because it's almost impossible to get hold of, but when you compare that back to Tonga against Australia, the entire stadium was...
You can't compare it to Tonga, that's a phenomenon.
What I'm saying is everybody supporting Tonga wore the national colours. Very few people in Hull did. But I think that it runs even more deeper than that at the moment. I think there are two types of audience in any sport. There's your committed, and there's the ones that you hope to bring in for the big events who perhaps don't have a direct allegiance to the sport, but will watch an international, something like that. So I think when you talk about, and no doubt we will, promotion, marketing, how do you get to the people that don't come across rugby league very often, that's one issue. The thing that concerned me the most about this is the fact that the core support seems to be draining away from rugby league, that we're not attracting rugby league people to rugby league events. I through no other reason than to get some kind of idea as to why people weren't coming to games, put something on Twitter on Sunday morning just saying, you know, why are rugby league people not going to rugby league events? I think the thread is still going, and it's not a single issue. It's absolutely fascinating. In fact, it's the best focus group the RFL can have if they want one. Just read the thread as to why people think that there is an issue within rugby league at the moment that's turning them off supporting the sport. And it's everything. There is no one reason. For some people it's the rules of the game, for some people it's the structure of the game.
Game's taking too long.
It's everything. So I think once you've got multiple factors that are turning people off, there is spectator fatigue with rugby league, amongst rugby league. And for me, that's not a negative, that's not a criticism. That's something that the game seriously needs to address, do some research on. I personally think we've said it right from the very beginning of doing these shows. One of the reasons is the season is so long. You're asking people to go to professional rugby league from the 1st of February, and by the time the middle of November comes around, you want them then to go to an international. That's a big ask in any sport. But we have got an issue which I hadn't realised until we only got 17,000 people in a hotbed of the sport if we cannot fill a 25,000 capacity stadium. And people now are coming out and saying they are falling out of love with the sport that they love. And we as a sport, the governing body in particular, need to address that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Good with it, Phil.
Yeah.
What more?
I'm off now.
What more can you say? But the great point when you said, you know, we've got to ask the supporters. We have got to listen to the bread and butter of our game, and that is the supporters. And if we decide to forget about them, because if we just think about the corporate and we just think about the hospitality, well, that's never ever going to work. So we have to listen to our bread and butter, and that is the support.
There needs to, as Phil said, and you've just said, there needs to be some market research into
Absolutely.
why people are not, and some engagement into those core fans who are either burnt out or switched off. And also, I think this has been brought up, and we go to Super League games every week, and you see it. It does seem to be an ageing fan base. Like, where are the younger people coming through who are replacing those older fans?
I think there's something else that is all tied into this as well. So we've lost the art of supporting our team at home. It's an absolute scandal that it's 2 years since England have played at home. This is an England team that got to the World Cup final that haven't played a game in England for nearly a year. You know, what is the sense from a marketing and corporate point of view of hiding your England team? And with what created superstars in your era was, for the Wigan boys, they were so dominant domestically. They were always on telly every week. But for the rest of you, it was predominantly your performances in the international arena. How did people get to see Gary Schofield in the early 80s? It wasn't necessarily playing for Hull. We saw that on a weekly basis. It was, here's a teenager making his debut for Great Britain. And I think all of the issues about not supporting your national team comes from the fact that we don't have enough home regular scheduled fixtures of that international team. And what I don't understand is why the clubs themselves don't see what a benefit it would be to the domestic game if the international team is strong. And you mentioned as well, you were in the corporate area on Saturday. How many Super League chairmen or owners or chief executives were there supporting the game?
Well, if I'm honest with you, fair play, Adam Pearson was there.
Well, you'd hope it would be. It's his own
If
he didn't go, we are in trouble.
But still, you know, he's a club chairman. Neil Hutchell from Hull Rovers. Ken Davey was there. Richard Fewley from Huddersfield. But apart from that, I didn't see too many. I don't know who all the executives were. I know Mike Rush from St. But I didn't see Mike Rush there. Matt Mallis I didn't see. I didn't see Ian Lenigan. Gary wasn't there.
Well,
I think
that's another issue.
Yeah, you know, they had the shirt lords, but I didn't see like Michael Carter. But you know, whatever, you know. So, but at the end of the day, the clubs have to get behind the international calendar. You know, and the international has to be set up for. I know Ralph was mentioned in League Express today. You know, international rugby league now is on a roll till 2021. Well, what role is that then?
We don't know where we're going next year.
It's
a roll downwards. That's the roll.
It's not being.
Is it a bread roll from the corner?
But it's not criticised, and it's all right. We're on the roll now, 2021. Well, who are we playing next year then? Then who are we playing the year after before the World Cup comes? The fans, because fans are still they're asking me now. You know, they look at there was told there was going to be a tour to New Zealand 2019. We took the trip out last year with Glory Days from there, and the people who want to go on this trip They can't do anything because nothing's being put in the calendar.
But it's not fair on the players either.
I agree.
We keep seeing the jersey presentations, how much it means to players to get caps, to become part of a heritage system whereby they get a number. It means everything to the players.
Yeah.
The fans have lost that link. Looking at the ticket sales, I mean, there were more people in Denver than there were in Hull. There will be more people who will have been at Anfield for the Four Nations final between
40,000
Australia and New Zealand than we'll get with England playing this week. We need to reinvest the international game here with the things that we can do by playing it more regularly.
The thing is, Phil, that it's not just playing it more regularly. We pay lip service in between World Cups, and you look at what Scotland, Ireland, Wales get.
100%.
Come to World Cup, they'll get their top players, but between that, they don't.
No.
Where's the value for them? And if Tonga weren't a big success at the World Cup now, then the Kangaroos wouldn't have had a pay cut, and these players for Fida and Tamalolo wouldn't have come out and played.
Something else about. If you're going to bring back the British Lions, which is the pinnacle of the international game in the Northern Hemisphere, then it cannot be England by another name, because the Aussies won't buy into that. The public over there, if they see some guys turning up in one shirt one year and they see them turning up in a different shirt called something else another year. So how do you invest in Scotland, Ireland and Wales the opportunity to be part of the British Lions? First of all, I'm not sure those governing bodies have even been consulted about how the Lions are going to come back. But if we are going down under next year, whether that includes Australia or not, immaterial. I think you could have a fantastic tour going to PNG, playing Fiji in Suva, Tonga in New Zealand and New Zealand. I think fans would love that, players would love that. It's a valuable tour. But how do you get to select Great Britain? Well, the one thing you could do, if you had the foresight to do it, is in the middle of June next year, when we should have had a test, we'd have a double header, probably at a ground that is a traditional rugby league ground to guarantee that there's going to be a lot of money. You would have England playing the next rank Celtic nation and the other two Celtic nations playing each other, and it would be one afternoon and it would be a tour trial, and on the Sunday night the Great Britain team would be announced. So let's say pick one position. You've got England playing Ireland, let's say, and James Roby is up against Michael McAlorum. You're bringing in a little bit of mate against mate, state against state, but the person who comes out on top gets the Great Britain shirt, and you do it through all the positions, all the way down through Four Nations. Why aren't we doing stuff like that? We haven't even got a mid-season international.
Do you remember, what was it, the last 3-4 years we've been to Newcastle? 3 years? 3 years. And after every time we go to Newcastle, Schoey comes on in various places wherever we are at the time and says, we should take an international to Newcastle, strike while the iron's hot, and we don't go there, and Rugby Union's going there again next year. Coventry got a bigger crowd for that double header. England-Scotland, which was derided. Yeah.
Which was a great game.
Night. Yeah.
Matty Russell scoring that freakish try.
It was cold.
It was cold.
Oh, it was cold.
It's November.
Let the people have their say.
Lots of comments as to why Saturday perhaps didn't work. Some saying the time of the match, should it have been in the evening? It'd be even colder then. It was cold enough, and I wouldn't have minded, but as you know, I'm not a big fan of the BBC. Especially since
you've hidden that well.
Especially since I haven't been on since doing the Women's Challenge Cup final. And they don't get me in to do the Super League show when Tanya's busy, do they? Get that Will Perry fella. But Radio Humberside, who were there doing commentary on Saturday, Gwilym, the legend that is, there's a pigeon on my head, Gwilym Lloyd, spilled his coffee down my back.
You think that was an accident?
Sit there with wet cheese. The worst thing was it was cold coffee.
Did he apologise?
He did, yeah.
But still, he was wearing a quite fetching hat.
Big hat. And he did ask Wayne Bennett some questions afterwards. So, what was I saying? So if it had been in the evening, it would have been even worse. Going up against football, people have said, but Great Britain Internationals in the past used to be on Saturday afternoons. The way tickets were sold, all online, can't get them at the stadium. That's a very fair point.
And some people who had to be on the phone for 35 minutes trying to get a ticket. Again, in this modern day and age, you want to click your phone, know that you've got it, and be off.
Leeds having a shirt launch.
And Castleford.
An open day in Castleford.
Yeah.
Inviting people to watch the game on their big screen rather than going. Well done to those clubs.
I'm told by a chief executive of a Super League club that they're not involved in ticket sales. Well,
surely they should be empowering the club. Every
you
club.
should be able to go to your club, buy a ticket.
It's what rugby union does. So
get some kind of cash back to the club.
Absolutely.
I think the clubs get 100 tickets to sell, but there is no way that if you decide on the morning of a game that you want to go, you can't get it at Hull because it's now a football stadium. They don't have cash turnstiles. You can nip down to your local club, go online with your local club, sit with your own fans.
Yeah.
And that should be the first.
That's basic.
The first option should be season ticket holders for Super League and Championship League ones. You get first dibs at the best tickets, which is what the RFU does with rugby union. We test it,
and that's not a cost.
And it works.
Oh, it works. Yeah. And also too, what it does, it puts money in the. Well, you've got to apply for the tickets for rugby union, so you get all that money from there. And if you don't get a ticket, they're taking the money back, but they're getting interest on that money anyway. So it's a win-win situation. But what we need more of the clubs taking the international game more seriously.
Yeah.
Getting behind because the pinnacle of any sport is the international game.
Well, and Richard mentioned Civil War, and if there are battle lines drawn and Super League is in one camp and everything else is in another, then unfortunately they won't take any interest in the internationals because that's in the other camp.
But that's got to be wrong, Phil, isn't it?
Of course it's got
to be wrong, surely.
And I think that's part of the thing that's fed out to fans, that, if we as a sport don't take our international game seriously as the pinnacle, why should a fan?
I agree.
A national audience couldn't give a toss about Wigan versus Castleford because they're just two.
But I think we're mixing up two things here. I think, yes, you're absolutely right, and 1.5 million people watching the BBC is great. You should be able to sell sponsorship on the back of that. I'm more concerned after Saturday, because this is the first time we've really seen it, that the core rugby league fans aren't supporting rugby league events. Now, you can add in Challenge Cup final this year, you can add in the Grand Final this year, you can add in any number of games where you would have thought derby rivalry would have brought higher crowds. It's not there is an issue about how much your marketing spend is to get casual fans in. There is now, I think, a different issue about why is our core support not going to our big events, of which this is just the latest one.
Well, do you know what as well? This year in Super League, and I reckon if we say we've seen 5 quality games this year in Super League, I think we'd be telling lies, to be honest with you.
All part of it.
Right, we would be telling lies if we had said we've seen 5 quality games this year. On Saturday, the first international we played, how good a game was that?
Quality game.
So now, as Wayne Bennett has told everybody, and we all now know what a quality side we've got, so why aren't we telling people that?
Well, that's my
sheer
argument
quality
about,
on Saturday. So why aren't we telling people, go watch your national side?
I'll use an example. This Sunday's games at Anfield, home of Liverpool Football Club. Today they put up a tweet because Bon Jovi's playing next year at Anfield.
Well, I know a couple of people that would be keen on that.
We've got 10.7 million followers. I haven't seen any tweets from the Liverpool official account about the test that's going on at their stadium. Surely they should be marketing to their
Jurgen
followers.
Klopp saying, "I'm glad I can go and watch rugby league on Sunday."
I'm a big fan of Jimmy Kynehorst, the German superstar.
Not so much
that would be great. Yeah.
I remember when Leeds played Castleford at Ellen Road back in a million years ago. It seems now.
It was cold then as well.
TV bought into it and did lots of promo for the game. I hope they're doing that for the.
The trouble is, you can't start that 2 days out from the game.
No.
That's what.
Exactly.
In my opinion,
exactly.
Ralph Rimmer's message should have been in the press room after that game. Should have been nothing about we'll hope 25,000 mics. And it should have been, you've just witnessed a real pinnacle game. Everybody now should be clamouring, please come, because you'll enjoy it more than anything else.
Also, there's 60,000 Kiwis who live in the UK.
Yeah.
Half of those live in London. Have they been engaged? Is anyone talking to that market? I don't think so.
Right, also as well, again, Ralph has been meeting the Hearn, whichever it's Barry or Eddie Hearn. Why can they not get? Because they want to sell our superstars. Our superstars are in the international scene.
Again,
why should they not be involved in the international centre from a point of view, with a marketing point of view?
I hope that something is happening in that direction. None of us know what that might be.
But we should be told, though, shouldn't we?
Well, either that or don't say anything. Because I think if you keep saying, I've had tea with the Hearns, that just says, I can't do my job, so I've seen somebody who might be able to do it for me.
Why aren't... And plenty of club shops these days, you can go in and buy any number of NRL jerseys and vests and all that kind of tat. But I can't see
Mascot Brown.
Mascot Brown. So that's where the PNG shirt's from, by the way. They're our
And the
favourite
Kiwi.
shop. And the Kiwi polo shop.
I've got a proper one on, a proper PNG shirt.
Oh,
Doing that. Sweat and all. 36
Not
degrees,
yours, presumably.
36 degrees sweat.
But why can't I go into next time I'm at Headingley to do something? Not go watch Yorkshire Carnegie. Why can't I go and buy an English shirt from the club shop? Why do I have to wait and buy it online? Or buy it.
How many
Poppy shirt
people?
released? People want to buy that Poppy shirt. You can't buy it until the 5th of November.
But how many people are going to turn up at an event, go to a caravan and buy a shirt and get changed in the car park? It's too late.
Here's the thing, and this struck me on Saturday when we sat in the crowd, because unlike some members of the Rugby League media who wimped out at half time to go sit in the press room, we know who you are, not going to name you, like for those big papers. There's only one big paper left, isn't there? Why has it got smaller again? I can't remember. Anyway, giving clues there. Used to be based in Manchester. If you were sat there before the game, there was nothing to get you into the ground early, because they had a choir on who were very good. You know, I'm sure we'll see them next week and the week after, because if you remember back to the Four Nations, we all love Lizzie Jones, but there's only so many times you can hear her sing. And there was nothing there. They did this game at the side of the pitch with two people. You could hardly hear what they were saying. Maybe they were listening to that video, and we need to come on to that as well, because people got upset about people getting upset about that. There was nothing there to get people in, and people have talked a lot about the NFL recently because it's the obvious hot ticket. 3 games at Wembley. They've sold 250,000 tickets. The tickets aren't cheap. I went a couple of years ago. I think I paid 50 or 60 quid for each for a pair of tickets. Good view, great atmosphere, lots of stuff to do around the ground. Fan zone, throwing balls into holes, having your photo taken with a mascot. Of course I did that.
Here's another
Signing
thing.
Schoey's there on Saturday. Mal Ridley's there on Saturday. Neil Fox was there on Saturday. Johnny Whiteley's there on Saturday. Why aren't they in a warm porta cabin somewhere, or a tent? Well, we can go and meet them and get our shirts signed and pictures signed and photos with them, because they are
little things like
easy
that.
things.
But why do we play a women's international away in France at the same time when all of the great events these days are double headers or triple headers to give the fans value for money? So why on earth didn't we schedule England women against the French women as a curtain raiser to England against New Zealand?
Exactly.
Come early. I mean, to be fair, when the teams ran out to warm up, there can't have been more than 2,500 people in the stadium. Normally when teams run out to do their pre-game calisthenics, there's huge cheers and all. It was dead. In fact, the atmosphere was really quiet for the first hour of the game. You've got to do more. You absolutely have to do more to make it an event.
You could see how bad the atmosphere was on TV too. Even the commentators mentioned it. And I think that's when even if you're watching the game on TV and it is a good game, which it was, the lack of people in the stands, and then you kind of go,
you can still sense the atmosphere, can't you? You can still sense it. There's no two ways about it.
I know plenty of people come back and say, well, the NFL's rubbish or whatever. Yeah, but they sold 250,000 tickets for 3
But it's an
weeks.
event.
Exactly.
It's an event.
Exactly. We can't sell 25,000 in the hotbed.
Could you see, as a flip side to that, like the NFL doing the NBA, could you see Super League clubs opening their dressing rooms and allowing every player to be interviewed by whoever they wanted after and before games?
Here's a major issue, and this affects the likes of you and Phil more than I. We want more media coverage of the sport. There's a letter in the league especially which is utter nonsense, saying that Danny Cipriani being left out of the England squad got more press than Stefan Ratchford. Of course it did. Danny Cipriani's a controversial figure. Stefan Ratchford's a great player, but he's not bloody famous, is he? Fight the right battles. But you and Phil, if you want to go and speak to people, the message is already out there, because the club media people are doing videos and they're doing articles on their website, and they are preaching to the converted. We're great at preaching to the converted. I only saw one television advert for the Test series, and it was on Free Sport, and it was around Rugby AM. And the figures for the programme, I don't know for last week, but the week before the grand final, didn't even make the top 15 on Free Sport. We're preaching to converted. The people who watch Rugby AM, the people who watch this programme right now, are Rugby League fans. No one who is not a Rugby League fan is watching this programme. Right? No one watches the Super League show. It's not a Rugby League.
I think
fan.
somebody tuned in thinking it was last of the summer wine. So.
Well, we should bring it back. We're preaching to the converted. And I saw this tweet yesterday. How can we get the crowds up? Give players free tickets. Why? Why are we giving current players free tickets?
Nothing should be free at international level.
And this, nonsense argument about, they didn't know the games are on. Well, they're not paying any attention to their own sport then, are they? So sod 'em. Look, if people...
I think Earl Crabtree had a really good point.
He probably did.
That he would be really keen to help promote the Test series if the game gave him the collateral that he needs to tweet about the game. So you get the image, you get the ticket details. I think, again, for him doing that and the thousands of Twitter and social media followers he'd had, which will increase the awareness amongst those people who already know about the sport, he is then part of the pre-match entertainment. So it's come and meet me at the KCOM stadium. I'll be there, proudly wearing my England shirt, and I'll sign your programme at 2:30 on the concourse or whatever. So I think use the guys that have got the big followings that love the sport to help promote it, and then be there at the game. We don't do any of that, apparently.
Approach Sonny Bill Williams to, I'm sure
he'd
he'd give a shout out. Chris Wood, Kiwi footballer, plays for Burnley in the Premier League.
Every person has, pretty much, apart from Schoey, a smartphone. It has a camera on. We're glad Schoey doesn't have a camera on his phone.
Oh, can you imagine?
Everyone's
the
got
things he'd
phone.
say on social media. Can you imagine?
I know, and that's even with an editor. The things you can do, if you've got your phone, you can make a video. If you're a famous person, as you say, Chris Wood or some random Dame Kiwi Takanawa, the only other New Zealander anyone knows.
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. Wayne Bennett's new boss, Russell Crowe,
Yeah.
do a video saying, "Come on,
He
watch
likes
the
rugby league, just a little bit."
And then if they're doing it on their own account, who knows what happens? The best piece of publicity rugby league's got recently, and it'll probably bring no one into the game, it doesn't matter, was Keegan Hurst tweeting The Rock, who's got 7 billion followers or whatever, and The Rock replying to him because he's a famous person. And people might go, "Who's this Keegan Hurst fellow? Who are these people?" And they might pay any attention, they might not, but it's free, it doesn't cost anything. We put out a video last week, and I had a tweet and slammed off the BBC down there, and as it turns out, it was not them at fault. No one would have bought a ticket based on, here's the Kiwis going no and stuff.
He wasn't reinforcing a stereotype.
Why did we do it? People think we're thick northerners. Look, got a hat. Wear it now. Flat caps and whippets. I saw a fellow walking through Leeds the other day, walking a ferret. I thought I walked in to Last of the Summer Wine. We can sit here and wear hats and do all this and reinforce the stereotype. You know what we are. People out there who will click on the BBC website and go, "Oh, look, here's some funny rugby people talking funny." And as I tweeted out, you wouldn't get the RFU tweeting a video of, I don't know if they're playing the Springboks with them drinking pints of urine and lighting their own farts, because that's the stereotype of rugby union, and it might not be true. And the stereotype
Can you leave Todd Carney alone?
The stereotype of rugby league is it's thick northern.
All that goes on the NRL. They're not flat cap and whippets. It goes on the NRL, and then they come over here and play now again.
Exactly. All that stuff. And I blame the BBC. And it wasn't
Rectum of Wigan, Schoey. Rectum of Wigan.
I apologise to them, but we set everyone up for an open goal there. Why did we do that? Someone at the Rugby Football League or our league or whatever sat back in the office thinking, "This is great." And I know people think, "Oh, you're complaining about nothing," but it reinforces the image of our sport. And we don't need to do that.
It's small.
Because everyone already thinks
Rich, I think part of the problem is you look across the game, participation's down, crowds are down, ratings are down. There is no accountability in people in leadership, in the top. There is no accountability for these things, and it hasn't been for several years. We're just getting to a point where things are getting worse that have already been on the downward spiral for a while. That's my opinion.
But there's no obvious leadership either.
There is an absence of leadership.
Because there is a split now between the two halves
but
of the game.
There was no leadership before, Phil.
No.
The leadership was bad.
But it's now getting worse.
Yeah. And the split
because
happened
there was one
because
voice.
Nigel Wood's leadership was so bad. And he's now running the international game, which we're saying needs to improve and needs better calendar. I mean, you can't make it up.
We've been asked, and I'll ask you two about this because again you're the closest to this. Who does hold them account? It should be us, the wider rugby league media, but we are criticised for being critical on this programme, and I know people like positivity, and we are positive. We spent half an hour at the top of the programme talking about the main thing in rugby league, which is the action on the field and how impressed we were with England, how the game was great. We wish more people had seen it. Schoey enjoyed himself, which is good, but who holds Ralph Rimmer to account? What's his KPI?
I think
maybe getting 25,000.
this is the issue, I think, because question checks and balances, constructive criticism, transparency, all of that in society is going out of the window. There are fewer national newspapers that are taking on anything other than a match report. They don't particularly want feature-driven stories. When you think about some of the issues within the sport at the moment, teams turning up with less players than they should, that certain clubs being in a level of debt that would cause major stories to be written in other sports, strategic planning for where the sport is going. None of that is questioned because there isn't really a forum to question it. But when those who might call themselves independent or alternative do start to mention these issues need to be discussed, they're hit back with a wave that says you're just being negative. Now, that's a governing body stance. We've seen that actively this season on more than one occasion, where merely by asking a question, the response is not to answer the question. It's, well, you're being negative by asking the question. Can't be. You've got to ask the question. I think the other thing about that as well is that some supporters are going down the road of saying, oh, England have played really well, but all we're getting is my timeline's full of people that complain that not enough people have turned up. The two are mutually exclusive. You can explain, you can promote, you can give credit where it's due, but if you do not, and John has been far more involved in major national journalism than I have, the job is to ask the questions. And if you don't get an answer, to ask the question again. And if you don't get an answer from the right person, ask, well, who should we ask this question of? But keep asking the questions. And I think it's healthy. It needs to be done. We don't do it enough. We never have. The governing body itself is now so amorphous that you don't even really know who to ask the question of. So I think, again, I'm not having a go at Ralph on his own here, but he came into a room to make a statement. That statement was just recorded and put out by most of the people that were given access to that information. I haven't seen anywhere anybody saying, what about the bits you didn't say? Where's the accountability for the non-ticket sales? Who is getting hauled over your desk on Monday morning because you only think 26,000 people are going to turn up? Why is your default position, starting today, always to be, let's find a way of reducing the price of tickets to get more people in the stadium? If you don't ask those sort of questions, you shouldn't actually be in journalism.
Me and Phil missed Ralph because we went to go stop Oliver Gildart having a wee. So we held the part into the bargain.
But I don't know what John thinks about that. But you've always questioned.
Well, yeah, that's you have to live in the real world, Phil. I mean, you can, you can't be a cheerleader. You have to report fairly and honestly what you see, and I think that's what most journalists try to do. I think just building on what you said, there's a number of factors. I mean, mass media newspapers are shrinking. Mm-hmm. There's less journalists around. And rugby league coverage is shrinking as part of that because the interest and the profile of the game has shrunk. That's, you can't argue against that. All the stats point to that. And I think, and I wrote an opinion piece. I think it was the start of 2016 for Love Rugby League about heads in the sand and worrying things in the game. And it's just sort of things have just continued on that path. In my opinion, I wrote a piece, an opinion piece for the Eye paper, national paper in. What was it, February or March, when Ralph Rimmer was appointed, saying, why is this going on? The same things keep happening. You kind of, at times you feel like you're just banging your head into the desk.
A core issue for me is that I think we've lost our identity. I think we don't know what rugby league is at the moment, who it appeals to, what its appeal is, what are we trying to actually sell, both to the people that have stuck with it for years and years and years, and new people that we want to attract to it. It was easy, and in some respects your stereotype would have been apt 25 years ago, that you asked anybody about rugby league, it was northern industrial working class, played in the winter, in the mud, with big blokes and Eddie Waring commentating. There's a lot of people still think that that's what we are, but the world has moved on. So what are we? What are we doing to change that impression of what do we want to be? And I just think we miss the point every time of actually selling the guys on the field. I think what Oliver Gildart did on Saturday should outweigh any administrator coming in a room and telling you anything, to be honest. but we don't know what we are. We don't know what we're trying to be. I also think that you're absolutely right that there isn't the outlet now for that kind of questioning. But by the same token, social media has never been as big. If you want to write an opinion piece, there's always somewhere you can have it published.
But there is some good, independent people out there doing it.
That should be encouraged by the governing body. They should want to be checked and questioned.
I agree. But also as well, do you know what? We wouldn't even be discussing this, would we, if the people at the top, the people who are in charge, had done the job properly, and we'd have had sell-out notices up for Hull, for Anfield, and for Ellen Road. We wouldn't even be discussing this, would we? Do you know what I mean? But again, unfortunately, because it hasn't been promoted right, it hasn't been marketed properly. This is what we get.
Were the Brownlee brothers not? Were they busy? Were they not being used?
Part of marketing is a budget.
Do
you know what?
You can't use an excuse for budget all the time.
No, you have.
It's got to be spent in the right way.
But you do have to set aside a budget if you're serious about marketing. But what you can do is use free social media
and I think
to get your message across.
Yorker Club have done this this year and last year very successfully.
And you have to have staff in that department that are solely responsible for promoting all of that.
Right, so
and we don't do that.
Right, so from the point then, now Robert Elson's coming from Super League, and he's looking to do this. He's looking to make it, the game attractive what it is. He's looking to get out the superstars of the Super League out there, so people get their own identity, get the sport identity. These superstars who will be part of the international side, Phil,
I'll get you,
John. Will he be working on the international side as well by getting the market to promote these players?
Perfect timing as he's just put.
I don't think so. No.
So that will be part of his role as well. No.
No, I think he's purely Super League, and the 12 clubs that are in the competition. That's his remit. I mean, when you talk about the international game, that is a problem because we talk about the RLIF. They're essentially toothless. No, the game's run by 3 federations.
Yeah.
It's run by the NRL. Well, 2 really. It's run by the RFL and the NRL because the New Zealand Rugby League has no money.
Yeah, puppets.
Yeah. And all their players essentially play in the NRL.
Yeah.
So we basically need an administrator or at least some understanding. And I think there are signs. It sort of ebbs and flows, doesn't it? And you've seen it over your career particularly. I mean, I grew up 80s, early 90s, and that was the Ashes series. I remember those games at Wembley. Right. They were huge. Chariots of Fire, Ellery. These are the players going up in Australia.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then last year's World Cup final, you think, and I was there at Suncorp, the same as yourself, Mel Meningo and Cameron Smith talking about this is great. This is Australia, England back.
But the point, but also,
where have we gone since then?
But also, again, the point I'm trying to make is when you talk about rep games and NRL, and they do it greatly. When the state of origin on, you can see all the marketing from there, the promotion from the players as individuals, how much it means to put whether it's a Maroon jersey or a New South Wales jersey. This is what, from a point of view where I'm saying the clubs need to be more involvement. Why can we not buy into it? Right, Elson's being brought in from a point of view to run the game, to promote and marketing. So it's part of the game from a Super League level. So why can't we get in part of the international point of view where he's selling the players out there and getting their profiles out there? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
We need everyone to march to the beat of the same drum.
We're
not talking about the clubs. We need all the coaches, all the players, because we're talking about Origin, and it was the same with the Football World Cup this year with Gareth Southgate. Put all the players up before.
Absolutely.
Freddie Fittler did the same with New South Wales. No strings attached.
Correct.
Why don't we do that? Only one club does that in Super League every week, and that's Leeds. I'm not just saying that.
But why don't we do that?
We don't do that in the international.
Well, we should do. We should. You know what? We should be having open days with the England side. We should. This sort of thing. We should be doing.
Well,
we should be doing.
We should be barbecues and inviting former Great Britain legends.
I made this point last week on social media, whether people got what I was getting at or not. Last week we went to Ellen Road. Phil was there.
I was there.
John was
there. We had chips.
The sandwiches were a bit dodgy. I think that's where the RFL budget's gone, by the way. It's not on media food, it's all sandwiches at the moment. Don't be blaming us, the media, for taking all the money out of the RFL. No freebies at this international series.
No, we're still carrying bags from the 2004 Tri-Nation series.
Mine says first utility. And we go to these events, and they're very nice. The RFL staff do what they can. And we all go in the hope of speaking to all these people. You will have seen the video last week. Sean O'Loughlin speaking to Phil. It was very good. Everyone moaned about the sound. That's my fault. We're getting there. I should tweet a picture of the studio to see so people can see exactly how this program works. we go to these things.
Tape and string.
It is, pretty much. I've got a new thing. I bought it from China off Wish. Hopefully it works this weekend. You'll see. We go to these things with the hope of speaking to these people, and we spoke to, over the day, Sean O'Loughlin, who's very good.
He's very good.
Stephen Ratchler, who's very good. Jesse Bromwich, who's very good.
Very tall.
Very tall. We would like to have spoken to Dallin Watini-Zelezniak, the captain of New Zealand. We'd have liked to have spoken to Sam Tompkins, who we thought was going to be there, but was actually in Cyprus, or was back from Cyprus. He's very good at evading the media, is Sam Tompkins. He's very slippery. And
Not in pubs.
but not pubs. Getting banned from speaking to him now. And we wanted to speak to Jared Warrior-Hargreaves and Kodina Karima. Because we wanted to get as much content as possible, because the more content we put on Facebook and YouTube, A, the better it is for us, because we get more clicks, and clicks mean potential sponsors or whatever. And B, it's better for the sport, because you know what, people might share those videos who are people on Facebook who shared it on their timeline. People who don't like rugby league see it, they might click on it, they might not, it doesn't matter. But they might have got some more interest in the series. The problem was last week, we go to this event and I wear two hats. Obviously wear the Forty20 banner proudly, but I'm very lucky to use the fact that I do reports on Talk Sport, and I'll be there on Sunday for them doing updates on the second test at Anfield, so I can legitimately claim to be there working for the biggest sports radio station in the world. That's what it says on the adverts, and as we know, you can't lie on adverts because you get sued. Could I speak to half the people I wanted to? No. Why? Because their time was monopolised by other media outlets, and you didn't see those videos that they did anywhere enough to justify the fact that they were just sitting around and chatting like they were mates with people. Now, it's not the BBC I'm talking about here. When we go to these events, and it's Super League and Sky, the host broadcasters have the right to speak to these people because they pay to speak to these people. But when you go and you can't speak to all these people, and we were there pretty much until the end, it's extremely frustrating because the players only have a short amount of time. They don't want to speak to us. They've got better things to do, like playing on video games or, I don't know, going to the pub.
Answering the same question 6 times.
So you must be excited, that kind of thing. What's it like playing at a football stadium? So I understand they have precious time. If we were told by the RFL's media manager, you ought to just have 2 minutes with them. Yeah, that's fine, because 2 minutes becomes 5 easily. But then the people disappear because they've been talking to one media outlet, and the story's not getting out there. So what are we supposed to do? The coaches weren't speaking to anyone about the top table press conference,
which was pretty useless.
Yeah.
Not a quotable line.
No, I think the quotable line, which I used and several other journalists used, concerning the NRL coaching moves with Michael Maguire and Wayne Bennett was, I'm here to talk about the Kiwis.
We all want to make rugby league bigger. We all want to get more coverage for rugby league, and we've got our own little island here. If TalkSport had asked me, did you get an interview with the New Zealand captain, I would have said, no, I'm afraid I didn't. And they weren't going to ask me, it doesn't matter. But they could have done. We need to... The people at the RFL know the problem. They need to sort the problem out. On the England Facebook page, because someone mentioned how great the work has been done by Jamie Jones-Buchanan.
Absolutely.
Out with the England Knights, plenty of videos out there.
He's done really well because they're different as well.
Yeah, because he's not. When
he's
I say
not bound by convention.
He's not someone who. Yeah, he's not learnt in the way that other people have done, and that's not a bad thing. That is a good thing. But I'm looking here and sod all from Saturday.
But you know what? But you know, I would imagine JJB's out in Papua New Guinea from there. We all know it's their national sport in PNG. He will have access to everywhere, and that's what the PNG want, because they want to tell everybody, not just in Papua New Guinea, but they want to tell people in Fiji, in Samoa, in Tonga, in New Zealand, in England, in Scotland, in Australia, that they play the bloody greatest game of all, and that's rugby league. And they want to sell their star players, and they want to tell people that England Knights are over there, and they want to promote their game, and they want to sell the fixtures out. There you go. That's how annoying it gets, isn't it? But a guy's doing a great job because he's allowed to do his job, because he's got access to everywhere to promote the greatest game of all. And what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, is there? Nothing wrong whatsoever. And let me just say, like back in our days, when I first came into the game, I did my first interview for a national newspaper, the Daily Mirror, the great journalist Arthur Brooks. You know what? And do you know what? When I did it, I couldn't wait to tell every Tom, Dick and Harry that was going to be the national newspaper. You know, I bought about 24 and all this sort of thing, because in them days, every time you was in the paper, whether it's the national newspaper or the local paper here, like the Yorkshire Post, whatever, you kept a scrapbook. You wanted to talk to newspapers. You wanted to be in the newspaper from there and tell everybody, not just from a point of view, you as a player, like, yeah, we're delighted to be playing with Hull, delighted to be making my Great Britain debut and this sort of thing. But what you was doing, you were selling the game, wasn't you? And again, it just 100%. Stops us by doing that.
100%.
We are going to move on and talk about different things, but there isn't that much else to talk about.
I think the big part of it too is finding angles, and that's what journalists do. They want to find their own take on a separate story. Hence, you wanted to speak to all these different players. Some of those that I got to speak to, and that's what we need to be selling out those angles. Like Dallin Wateni's let me finish. His great grandfather was the first Maori to captain the Kiwis and then go into member of Parliament. He's a legend of their game. I didn't know much about him, but talking to him about that and trying to tell that story in League Weekly and in the iPaper on the weekend. That's the sort of thing that we should. He's only 23 and he's captaining his country. First game, he beats Australia, the world champions, on his debut as captain. That's a fantastic story.
But what I was just going to say, John, like me, if I was playing today and if I was England captain, or if I was, the stand-up World Cup, I would say to every press guy, "Do you want me?
Well,
do you want me? Do you want me? Do you know what I mean? I would say to you guys, "Do you want to interview me?"
I'll give you another example.
That's what I would be doing.
World Cup final. Sean O'Loughlin was injured. He's the captain. He didn't play in the World Cup final, so Sam Burgess was the captain.
Yeah.
He did the captain's run, spoke really well in front of the media at Suncorp. It was a really sunny day.
Yeah.
Fantastic final. Right down here. Anyone could have won. England or Australia could have won the game. Yeah. Anyone who watched it was in the stadium. It was a brilliant contest. After the game, I think there was a lot of positivity after the game. Press conference. Who does the press conference? Wayne Bennett and Sean O'Loughlin. Didn't play the game, but he was doing. Surely Sam Burgess should have been. But I think Sam Burgess has a contract. I don't know if this is the reason, but he does have a contract with Fox Sports worth a lot of money. And you may have spoken to them after the game or whatever, I don't know, or been invited. But surely the captain, who's just played a World Cup final, should be speaking with the coach all throughout the tournament. It's not much to ask.
After the game on Saturday, there were 34 ambassadors who played. When the media hang around in the mix zone, it would be great to get a comment from all those 34
Absolutely.
Across a range of media outlets, be like television, social media, written media. But they all come out together. You have to make a choice which one you're going to get, and the one that you go and get means you don't get somebody else.
Correct.
And that's where we miss an opportunity, I think, particularly because it's a different story. The England are saying, "Oh, this is great. We need to absolutely build on this." And the Kiwis are saying, "Oh, we felt we could have won that, but now the pressure's really on for the next game." Yeah. So there's plenty of stories. There are people who've made debuts.
There's other stories. Did anyone speak to Marty Tapau and say, "Oh, you're coming to Leeds, Marty"?
Schoey's never heard of you.
Yeah.
Have you heard of him now? You've seen him now, Marty Tapau.
He was good.
Dreadlocks.
Came off the bench, pushed a few people about, offloaded the ball. He's not coming to Leeds, by the way, but
Trent Aaron.
But that would have been a good guy to question about stuff like that. You've got to be more open and accessible and get more and more information out there.
You've got to,
people to
that's how the Americans do it.
Well, why would you go to Anfield if you hadn't really seen anything other than that game on telly? Because then on the back of that, you get to hear about some of the people that played in that game. You want to actually go and see them live.
At the end of the day, the product is the players. And if you don't make the players accessible, if you don't make them transparent, then I'm afraid to say you'll get what you get, and that's exactly what we're getting now at this moment in time. We're not getting big sponsors. We're not getting the coverage that we should get because, as we all know, we keep saying it. We keep saying it. It is the greatest game of all.
That doesn't work well.
It is the greatest game of all. But if you're not going to sell yourselves, well, nobody else is going to sell us.
That's one of the reasons with the NRL why it's kind of gone to another level.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of the coverage and the ratings are up, crowds are up, is because one of the things, and anyone who's got the NRL pass over here knows, Fox League. 24/7 rugby league. And they've got all the chat shows, and you go on, you watch the Monday Night Matty John show, and all has a clip, the three best Englishmen to play, and then you see a clip of you scoring an intercept try. Matty's a Balmain fan, so he's a big fan of yours. But you know what I mean? That's on every night. We don't have that, do we? Here.
Do you know what? Do you know what as well? Right.
Players are on talking about their lives.
Well, do you know as well, though, John? As well, out in Australia. The players want to be on the TV shows. They want to be on
paid as well.
No, but that's not the point. They want to be on there. They want to get on there. I would imagine the players over here, You want to come on the television or come on radio? I would imagine them. Well, what questions are you going to ask me? What question are you going to ask? Yeah. You're not going to go on about this. You're not going to. Oh, come on, fellas. Listen, you can be as open and honest as what you want to do. You know, grow some crystals. But in Australia, they love going on the TV shows. They love doing the radio interviews.
In the 4 years or so that you guys have been doing this Monday night show, I think some of the best episodes have been when Ollie Holmes was on and Adam Cuthbertson.
You guys were.
Well, that was a coincidence, but you know what I mean. When the players are on and they're open and honest, and they're asked and they give their opinion freely. That's what we've got to get to.
Elsewhere,
interaction.
We do need to move on eventually. Dave said, "Can we start the cool lads? 7 a.m. tomorrow, Red Hall Gates. I'll bring a pitch talk and a patio of hobnobs." As I said before, I've been to
Head
Red
on
Hall
a stick.
back in 2001 when Wakefield were deducting points for breaking the salary cap when we were skint and didn't pay players in the first place anyway. There's about 4 of us went to Red Hall to protest outside to try and get our points back. Sky had a film crew there.
The Wakefield 4.
I wish I knew which game it was that was on afterwards on Sky, because I was on the telly holding up a flag wanting our points back.
Michael Carter would be asking the question now. All you fans at Red Hall, come and watch Wakefield. Come and watch Wakefield.
Didn't you deliver the franchise document?
No,
Michael Carter's pleading. All you went to Red Hall, come and watch. Come back, please. Come back. We're not skint anymore.
No, the great man John Huxley brought us out a cup of tea. I don't drink tea.
I saw John Huxley Saturday. I did a function in Keighley at a Masonic Lodge.
Isn't he the mayor?
I was speaking at a Masonic Lodge in Keighley, and John Huxley was there.
All the handshakes now.
Yeah. John Huxley was the guys with 4 arms and 3 noses and 4 ears and that sort of thing. It was quite interesting.
You're on very dangerous ground now.
Let's move on.
It was quite interesting. I wasn't out of place, to be honest.
I'd like to see the Belle Isle Lodge.
Should we talk transfers or Hall of Fame first? We'll talk transfers first, because there's not much to talk about.
Yeah, you can tell us who Matt Frawley is.
Who's Matt
He's
Frawley?
a halfback.
Yes.
Who could be replacing?
Someone going to Wakefield maybe.
I've seen it in League Express as well, and he's been one of their best players since he's been back there ranking as well. They're not about getting shut of him,
that was the report, yes.
That's what it says in League Express. They're looking to get shut of him.
Yeah.
Well, he's been one of their best players, hasn't he? So
Jake Mamo's disappeared.
Well, he's off contract.
Right.
Yeah, I think he was always going back to the NRL.
Where's he gone?
Yeah, it's gone very quiet. I've been asking his agent. He's not replying to me.
Well, here we go again, isn't it?
But from what I understand, that Matt Parcell won't be leaving Leeds.
Excellent.
Although, according to reports, he's been told he can leave if he finds another club, but I don't think he wants to go. He's got another year.
So tell us about Matt Frawley.
Sorry?
Is that why nobody wants him?
No.
I don't think he didn't have a good season this year.
He had a bad shoulder for most of it.
But how many Leeds players had a good season? And his first season, he was in the dream team and was their top try scorer, and they won the comp. So I don't think necessarily one season makes you a bad player. But yeah, I think. Matt Frawley. So yeah, basically,
so who is Matt Frawley?
He's a scrum half from Canterbury. 23 years old. He's played 31 NRL games. Made his debut last year for the Dogs.
Played in Canberra.
Can he play?
Oh, he's from Canberra. Yeah, played in the juniors.
Can he play?
Yeah, from what I've seen, he's a decent organiser. You know, very. I'd say it reminds me a bit of, say, a Michael Dobson kind of player. You know, structured. Well, I don't think
gone down well.
I don't think Jonathan Thurston's coming to Huddersfield. Sorry,
I'll wait for the ball the last second. I'll kick it then. That's the sort of player they're getting then.
Oh God!
Hey, that's the sort of player.
Quick question here. 23 years old, only played 30 NRL games. Is he being released because he's reached the limit of what he can do in the NRL, or would he be a current Canterbury?
I wouldn't say he's reached his limit. I think there's a couple of players in front of him. They've really rejigged their halves. I think Kieran Foran's leaving as well. He might be going back to Manly. And they've got Lachlan Lewis and
Foran going back to Manly. You are finishing one of the
and they've got Benji Marshall's younger brother as well. So I think part of the issue I was seeing probably a lot more, if you say second string NRL players coming to Super Leagues, they've got rid of their second tier caps, so they're not allowed to have as big squads. So I think he's good enough to play in the NRL, but like a Josh Drinkwater, could be a really good fit. You know, I think Schoey may laugh, but I think Michael Dobson had a pretty good Super League career.
I think didn't he save Wigan from relegation?
I think he did all right at OKR and Salford as well.
I didn't say that.
No, he didn't. Wigan only got fined 2 points. That's why they got saved, wasn't it?
John, that's what Castleford fans will tell you. John has asked, any news where Drinkwater is going, having just mentioned him?
I think he needs to lower his wage demands to go anywhere at the moment, from what we hear, unless you've heard any different.
No, that's what
having
I've
had
heard
half
as well.
a good season, he now thinks he should be in the very upper echelon.
He figures he should be a marquee player, doesn't he?
And
he's not that good.
there aren't too many clubs out there.
As you say, halfbacks are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, good ones.
What's this
Not
about
a good one.
John Beckman coming back as a marquee player in 2 years' time?
No, he said that he said that publicly. I think he was quite angry when Wigan put that statement out that there is no deal for him to come back to Wigan. That's complete baloney. Yeah.
We'll get that cleared up.
Trent Merrin, though.
Well, yes, marching on together's asked that. Is he coming to Leeds?
All we think we know, because Leeds are a clandestine club, quite rightly, when it comes to signing.
Phil, you're behind all the closed doors at Leeds. Come on, tell us something. We don't about the players not telling us anything. Tell us something, Phil Kaplan.
All we think is that Trent Merrin has approached Penrith and asked about being released from the last.
Is that him with the silly tash?
No, you're thinking of Campbell Gillard, I think.
Is that Campbell?
Yeah, you are. Yeah. Trent Merrin, who used to be, his girlfriend was not anymore, but was world champion surfer.
That was a big thing on the footy show now, Council, wasn't
it? It became in Australian folklore as doing a Merrin or battling Merrins. It means punching above your weight, as in getting a partner who's a lot better looking and more attractive than yourself. Which is what Trent.
What are you looking at me like that for?
Well, yeah, I've seen your partner, so yeah, you're battling Merrins as well. But he's 29. He's 29. He's played, I think, 13 times.
He's not about playing. He's not about playing.
He's played.
Test football
29.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great. If
for
Leeds can get him, it's a huge.
Oh yeah. He's not about playing.
He's won a grand final.
Yeah. None of it. So also as well, Phil, player Australian good servant for Leeds, going to Featherstone, Delaney.
Yeah.
Does that surprise you that he still wants to carry on?
No, absolutely. I think he'd be perfect in that part-time.
So why are Leeds releasing him then?
Because I think they need to get somebody in
younger
who is in a similar mold.
I'm only saying next I thought he'd be tired from playing due to his injuries.
No, I think he's part of his role will be with the
foundation.
Part of his role will still be able to play.
Plus it's a dual reg with Featherstone, So.
And I think Leeds are.
We could end up like Luke Briscoe and come back.
Leeds still in for Fenson to replace him.
I think so. They seem to be. They seem to be getting a few Cowboys. Whether that's on motion. I mean, it does depend though what players they can get rid of. I mean,
sort of. Yeah. Some have gone.
Yeah,
so,
but I have signed quite a few as well.
And also as well, I've seen the League Express too. Huddersfield Giants, Utah, the winger from Newcastle.
That killer you.
Yeah, is he signed for Huddersfield?
Well, that was months ago. I mean, I don't know what the hold-up's been.
No, I've read it today. Huddersfield have signed him.
They've
signed him, have they?
Yeah. I mean, he's the sort of player on his day is brilliant, but he's very erratic. A bit rocks and diamonds.
He can be an 8 out of 10, or he's a 1 out of 10, isn't he? It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I did, and I should apologise to everyone on Twitter who had much fun yesterday when I'd forgotten that Sam Tonges, despite being announced months ago, and signed for the Catalan Dragons. But who knows? Him and Williams could be the Wigan future halfback man. They all go back. In my defence. Peter's asked us, and I think he's asked us this for the last few weeks. Ken Seo, is he going to Salford? Do we know? We don't know.
Most likely, it seems.
Robert's asked us, do we think Leeds will sign a winger to replace Hall? Is that Luke Briscoe?
I suspect they won't, because I don't think they planned on signing Conrad Hurrell. Ash Handley, who's on contract currently with the England Knights, has to play somewhere. I could see him playing on the wing. I think Harry Newman will need a few games. He really is a potential star in the making. You'd think that would be on the wing as well. I'm not sure with Hurrell's acquisition that Leeds now will be looking for a winger.
Ashton Golding on his way out?
I think he could go on loan. The issue is going to be where would he play?
Jack Walker, you think is the number one fullback.
And Lola here can cover fullback. So I would think that Golding was being looked at as an auxiliary hooker off the bench, but Dwyer's form at the end of the season probably sees him doing that role.
Right, Phil. And please don't say he's still recovering from his knee injury.
He's still recovering from his knee injury.
Right. He's doing all right in the Knights.
Scored for opening try.
Looks like he's got a smile back on his face. Where's Sutcliffe going to play? He needs to be told what position he's going to be shot.
Absolutely. Well, that's
for his own peace of mind.
I suspect that
because he can play. The kid's got talent. Where are we going to play him?
Well, I suspect that's one of Dave Furner's first issues when he gets here next week, and I would be saying to him, you look at the back row at the moment, there are a couple of players there that are coming to the end of their career. You need to make a claim for being a second rower. Now you may have to alter some of the things you do. You have to do a lot more tackling. That's one of the things. But
Start eating.
we can't get you in at 6.
It's not 6.
We've just signed a world-class centre, so can't get you in there. Full-back, you're behind the hot young property. So it's got to be in the pack. It's got to be back row. If
But the reason
Jamie Jones, Buchanan,
but the
and
reason why I'm
Carver
asking,
are still there, they're coming to the
But
end.
the reason why I'm asking, he needs to know where he's going to play, so he can
absolutely.
get, so we can get the best out of him. And it's not fair on the kid
absolutely.
by saying, "Oh, we might pick you at fullback, sense to stand off, loose
I
forward."
know you can't look anything into the French test because it was an opposed training. Interesting that he was picked,
I want no interest in the French
but
test.
he was picked in the back row for that. Came off the bench and played in the back row.
Speaking of JJB, obviously he's got his work at the moment with England Knights. He's scouting for potential Papua New Guineans to sign for
Featherstone.
For Featherstone.
And Barrow.
And Barrow.
Yeah.
And everyone else.
I think he's got enough on getting the camera to work and sending the match report back. He's doing a terrific job.
Yes. We like JJB.
It's different.
We like
It's different.
That was this week's transfers. So that wraps up. So I can edit that nicely and stick it out on YouTube as a separate clip on Wednesday. Try and get more views.
But you're thinking ahead, aren't you?
Well, yeah, we've got to plan what we're going to do this week because obviously we haven't spoken.
That'll never catch on the rugby league.
Until we go to Anfield on Sunday. Look out for us. We haven't got a fan cam. We can't afford one. David, we haven't talked about Danny Brough. Danny Brough. I'm biased. I can't talk about this because I think, in terms of talent, in the let's have a look. 20 odd years I've been watching Wakefield. He's the most talented player to wear a Wakefield shirt. Good signing for Wakefield, yes or no?
Well, we said it last week, didn't we? And I'm not convinced, to be honest with you. No, I just think as though that Jacob Miller, he's found his place. He wants to be the main man. He's got a smile back on his face. He gets the best out of his players around him. I'm not convinced.
Aren't they accumulating halfbacks now at Wakefield?
Yeah.
From not having one, they've now
Yeah.
got 12.
They've got more than anybody else, haven't they? They're just signing Reynolds. Hampshire's signing a
Well,
new deal.
where is Ben Reynolds going to play if they sign? Well,
Joe Reg, send him to Fair.
He's not going to play, is he? Unless they get injuries or whatever.
Well,
He's not going to play. He's not going to be
I mean,
the starter.
Well, they've got 2 hookers as well, so you
Brough
can't really.
may well be a short-term fix to try and get them in the top 4. I sort of get why they would want him, and they're losing Liam Finn. They do need a kick in general around the place. Obviously, as part of that, Scott Griggs would go to Huddersfield, so you're losing some experience in your spine.
They've got Jowett at fullback, so they're all right.
Well, the theory is
what is the position with Jowett?
The theory is, and Steve has mentioned this, Hampshire will play at fullback.
Also,
Which again,
And
just,
Jowett,
Jowett might as well go
with the
So
greatest,
he may as well.
he ain't going to play on the wing, is he? Because
And,
they're
No,
all right for
they've
wingers.
got some good
Apparently,
wingers.
the next cab off the rank, Luke Hooley, is even better than Max Jowett, I'm told by people who've seen him. So I know he was on loan at Oldham last year, and he's in the.
He'll be playing on
Ireland
Boxing
squad.
Day.
In the signing Weatherby Whaler Challenge, yeah, looking forward to that one. Free fish and chips for everyone. Well, that was. So the jury's out on Danny Brough. I'm happy to see him back. As I said on Twitter the other day, I'd rather see players who can win games than players who are triers, and I know that's a bad attitude to have, but it's not kids' sport. You know,
Well, I'll tell you what then. I'll sling this one in, and Phil saying, well, Danny's been signed, and I guess that's what they're looking for getting that now in the top 4. Our great workmate here, Mark Wilson, he always says Danny Brough doesn't turn up for the big games. So will he get him into the top 4?
We'll find out, won't we?
Will he get him into the top 4?
The excitement is, and I've forgotten the name of our listener who I've had a bet with now, because obviously last week I said Casa big game bottlers. Which,
You
you get much stick over that, Rich?
You said Wakefield.
I said Wakefield will finish above Cass, and he's now bet me the fact that if Castleford do finish below Wakefield, or Wakefield, if Castleford finish above Wakefield, I've got to wear their shirts to a big game, which I'm not allowed to because I'm not allowed to wear them in the press box, but I'll wear it outside. Which I don't have any problem with.
Who's this bet with?
One of our listeners whose name I've forgotten. But the Cass shirt's on. The new Cass shirt, it's orange and black, which is called Controversy. It's not amber. It looks quite smart. Although we have to ask the question.
We do have to ask the question. We did ask this question on Saturday. We have to ask the question.
Here's the thing, right? They've brought out they're bringing out 3 kits because you don't need 3 kits. But you're bringing out 3 anyway.
Who are?
Castleford. They think they're leads now.
They've launched 3 kits.
But they haven't launched the away kit yet. But they have launched the home kit and the 3rd kit. The 3rd kit commemorates the end of the Great War, the First World War.
Got poppies
book,
on it.
Where's that book? And it's the First World War. And I didn't do history at school. I didn't until GCSEs. 1914 to 1918. Remember that. This is 2018. Next year is 2019. The next revealing series On the shirt it says 1914 to 1918. I'm not buying this argument that the war finished in November, so it's still 100 years. We're not buying this at all.
You should have had it this year.
I know people...
Better late than never.
I don't want to go... I don't want to say people are jumping on the bandwagon of making shirts with poppies on, but people are jumping on the bandwagon of making shirts with poppies on when they're never going to play in November and wear it. You can do lots of different things to show respect without turning it into a competition. Oh, look at our shirt. We care more about the veterans than you do.
Should we not have had one round this year?
Yes.
That was the military round, and everybody wore their commemorative shirt.
Absolutely.
For the First World War.
But retro round. Let's have a retro round.
But again, from the sport point of view,
wear what you wore in 1918.
From a sporting point of view, isn't that great promoting and marketing if we do that?
Well, apparently,
great news.
I'm told by someone who knows more about history than I that the Treaty of Versailles was signed in June of 1919. So why doesn't he say 1919 on the bloody shirt?
Yeah.
Not that it's a bad... You know, I feel I have to say these things because no one else comes out and says them. And that's independent non-cheerleaders in rugby league.
It seems odd, doesn't it?
It does seem odd. I don't know why they're doing it. And I don't have a problem with charity kits or kits for this and that and the other, but at least, be less transparent about these things.
Have a military kit, but don't hinge it around the First World
War.
War.
Don't put the dates on the front.
If it's the year before. I mean, there might have been a delay in the message getting through, but
we
the
could
war
commemorate the start of the Second World War, 1939. Would that?
Come by your start of the war kit.
Neville Chamberlain kit? I don't know, maybe not.
A silhouette of Neville Chamberlain waving a bit of paper, getting off a plane.
Everybody in khaki.
Oh dear. When those great games in the war when they used to
Emergency League.
Yeah.
Guest players.
Rugby Union against Rugby League. England have got a nice poppy kit, but as you said, you can't buy it until the 5th of November, so by the time it might arrive, you might not get it in time for the game. He does look very smart, and he's very clever. From a distance, you can't tell, but when you get up close, you can see the poppies.
Yes.
But there you go. Hull KR have got one as well. So if you haven't got a kit about the war, you don't care about the veterans, you evil people. Elsewhere, the Hall of Fame. Three people are going in. It's been announced. I thought this was like a secret until the day. Because when
Masonic, it should have been Masonic, shouldn't it?
When you went into the Hall of Fame, did you know beforehand? Well, I know you knew beforehand, but you didn't.
No, you couldn't tell anybody.
No. It's like getting a thing from the Queen. And when you were in the Leeds Hall of Fame, you didn't know. No. I nearly told him, and I didn't realise.
But isn't that how you're supposed to do a Hall of Fame for the people who are in the room?
I agree.
That the first
it's an element of surprise.
The first they really get an inkling is when they see those people, perhaps beforehand, and then there's the whole pomp and circumstance of saying we now formally induct, and you were in the presence of greatness, and it was. But we've announced it 2 weeks before. Absolutely nothing wrong with the choice of people, but the mystique has gone, hasn't it? In Australia when they do the Dally M's or the Menna League or whatever, it's on the night, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not 3 weeks before. Bizarre.
And we're not debating who the people going in. That's not up for discussion.
So you don't want to know who else we would put in?
Well, yeah.
Now I did my homework.
Well, I mean, here's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because
Bo Falloon.
That was suggested.
Wouldn't even be in the Cronulla Hall of Fame.
Roman Neverett.
He will be at one.
Jake Shorrocks and Ryan, whatever he's called.
Lannan.
Yes,
Ryan Lannan.
Both Falloons in the same Hall of Fame as John Gallagher at Leeds in any rumble.
We should.
That's a Hall of Shame.
That needs to be one of the gents' toilets in the new South Stand. Just write the names. Don't do it in pen. Don't do that. I'm not saying you should do this, but yeah, do it. And I've completely lost the trail. Oh yeah. By the way, why are we picking on the Catalans for voting for the wrong people in the Steve Prescott Man of Steel? Why are we not picking on everyone who?
Because they're not going to come to Red Hall and complain.
Well, we're going to march on Red Hall with all these things holding up banners down with this sort of thing. The Hall of Fame then, it's been going since 1988. Brilliantly having read in the paper, Neil Fox, who of course misses out on all these things, not on the statue because he's too Yorkshire, wasn't allowed in the Hall of Fame in the first year because he hadn't been retired for 10 years because he was still playing in 1979. Despite the fact this Hall of Fame career probably ended somewhere in the mid-70s. So he had to work the next year to go in. I can't wait until around 5-10 years time when people are going to kick off royally about who does get in the Hall of Fame because it'll be people from this era.
Who chooses?
Who picks who goes in the Hall of Fame? Phil, I mean, we don't even know about this thing. This is again going back to marketing and advertising things in rugby league. Who knows the Hall of Fame's going on? Apart from there's no press release coming out. I don't get any press release.
Well, I think that's
the
why.
least connected man in rugby league.
Is that why they've announced the 3 names in the hope that it will generate some publicity about it and people will buy tickets and go to the dinner to see those inducted that they already know are going to be inducted? Along with the golden boot and the golden cap, as if you can't have one event.
No, I thought you were going to mention that.
What's the golden cap?
Oh, here we listeners.
When you've made 50 appearances for Great Britain stroke England.
When nobody's done that.
How many have you made, Schoey?
49.
Don't get upset that night. Will
Why? Who's got 50 caps? Adrian Morley's easy, only one Morley.
I think you might find a winger called Sullivan.
Mick Sullivan. I think Mick was 49 as well, same as me.
Apparently it's 50.
I'm sure they're the same as me for England and 3. Another one I missed out on. Another one.
Don't start him off.
Another golden cap. Another. That's
A box of those.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding me? They gave you a golden cap. Sure, I played in the friendly.
I think you get the golden slab.
That game when they played the rest of the world, when the
Yeah, does that count?
well,
Well,
why not?
Well, that gets me
It
50.
has.
Well, there you go.
That gets me 50
Well,
then.
quick, get on to them. We need to make a new one.
Hello.
We've only got 2 of them made.
Honestly, Phil, is he a golden cap?
Are you supposed to say that? Is that supposed to be public knowledge?
Yeah, it's in the press release.
Oh, is it? Well, I don't get the press releases, so I don't.
But we're talking about the 3 Hall of Famers. Fully deserved. I congratulated Johnny on Saturday. Absolutely delighted. I guess a lot of people may have said he should have been in before. Derek Turner, one with a show, Malcolm Reilly, he's absolutely buzzing because I think Malcolm maybe saying a few words on behalf of Derek.
I think he modelled his game a bit on Derek.
He loved playing for Derek Turner because Derek Turner just said to him, Malcolm, if you don't go out there and chin him, I'm going to chin you when you come back in the dressing room. So Malcolm said, don't worry about that, don't worry about that, Derek. If you're giving me that licence, I know exactly what to do, Derek. And then obviously Andy Gregory, fully deserved. The best come out we've produced is Alex Murphy, so I think the 3 of them absolutely fully deserve where they should be, and that's at the top of the tree with the other 25 members who were part of the Hall of Fame.
Derek Turner knocked out Richard Harris in the filming of the Sporting Life
did,
as well.
Did he mean to do that, or was it just a missed tackle?
Well,
I just don't think he knew any other way.
I think
That was tackling in those days.
I never saw him play, Phil.
He said, "Go and make it look authentic."
Yeah.
Oh,
I never. Did you see him play, Phil?
No, the first time I came across him would have been as a coach.
Right.
When he moved from Castleford to Leeds,
Right.
which created real consternation because he built the 1969 Championship final, which goes down as one of the most brutal ever.
Yeah.
Derek Turner was in charge of Cass, and after that game, they made him the coach of Leeds, who'd been, this entertainers.
Yeah.
So it didn't go down. I think he only won about 4 trophies at least, but that wasn't enough because they didn't play.
He got the sack because they didn't like his style of play.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. But fully deserved to win the Hall of Fame, which is you're coming along as my guest, Mr. Kaplan.
Which, don't leave when they mention golden caps. I don't want to be sitting on my own.
I'm going to see who's come up with this idea. Honest.
But this again is another thing we should be celebrating more, shouldn't we?
Of course it is, absolutely.
But again,
it's going to be live on the Our League app. I'm going to be able to see these speeches.
What I don't understand is why are we doing the Hall of Fame, the Golden Boot, stroke cap at the same time?
I don't understand it. I don't know.
Is there not enough reverence in the Hall of Fame?
It should be a Hall of Fame function itself, correct? Because you're making these the 3 people very special. The family who's coming along as well, very, very special. It should be its own event.
Yeah. The Hall of Fame is for ex-players. The Golden Boot is for current players. So there's 2 events there, aren't there? Really.
Who would your Golden Boot with? I know
Jason Taumalolo.
Mine's.
I think he has completely revolutionised international football. It's done over a year period.
So he played 2 international games this year, Phil.
It's the impact. Did they count the semi-final of the World Cup?
No, I don't think so.
The finals.
That would have been last year.
No, but it's from like the.
I thought it was 2018.
No, it goes back to a little bit of.
So you're talking about James Tedesco's mine Golden Boot winner.
Yeah, I think Tedesco and Coidner. I mean, they've won.
Tamalolo.
Yeah, Tedesco for me.
Reinvented the international game by switching allegiance.
Yeah, but you don't want to go to Boot just for being a politician, Phil.
I think he was
affecting. He
was pretty good in that semi-final against England.
But you don't
one game. You gave us to him on one game last year.
Go to Boot for being a politician, Mr. Kaplan. It's all about the rugby league field.
Tommy Makinson's in on the back of one game.
You'd been the golden boot if it were brains of being a politician, Mr. Kaplan.
He had a good club season.
If it was golden knee bandage, I'd be fine.
We asked who should be in the Hall of Fame. Sid says Liam Watts. That's from Liam Watts's dad. Looking at the Hall of Fame, there's only one player who's been inducted who played for Bramley and Doncaster, and that is, of course, the legend himself, Gary Schofield. I'm just looking down the list of the people who are in there. Who's missing who should be in there from the past? I know we've spoken about
I've
this.
done my homework.
You've obviously got involved in the Leeds Hall of Fame. You can't induct everyone at once.
You can't.
Otherwise it becomes a mess and you run out of people to induct in the future.
Oh no, this has gone on for years.
But
There's
exactly,
126.
So how many people are in so far?
8.
And one of them's him.
One of them's him.
So he's there. Who is missing from the British Rugby League Hall of Fame?
Joe Thompson, first forward to tour 3 times. Jim Brough, great player and coach of the 1958 Tories, so I think I've still got the best record. Joe Egan from Wigan. Aren't enough hookers in the Hall of Fame. Need more hookers.
No, is it hooker, is it?
I'm just looking down.
I don't think there's a hooker. Richard Delavies keeps telling me there's not a hooker in there.
Well then, Joe
not
Egan
on the list on
should be
Wikipedia
in.
anyway, no.
What about Tommy Harris? Was he?
I'd have Egan in first, but
Right.
Ben Grono from the Great Huddersfield team, and somebody called John Willie Higson should be in the Hall of
Great
Fame.
name.
He is the only player that played in the Honslet team that won all 4 cups, and then moved to Huddersfield and became part of the team of all talents who won all 4 cups. Get him in. John Willie Higson.
That's on record. So you can always rely on Phil because he knows about history and stuff.
What
He looks it up, to be fair.
But,
I mean, I don't know.
But in fact, the problem is with those 4 names who probably don't resonate with the young people. I mean, I can't say.
But isn't that what a Hall of Fame
That's what it
is?
should be, yeah, because it's
Yeah,
not the Hall of
There
Fame
has
good.
to be I mean, I think it's fantastic, the 3 guys that are going in, but we're going from the 1950s to the 1980s. A Hall of Fame has to also have the shoulders on which this is built.
Yeah, I'll buy into that any day of the week. Yeah.
So, you know, you might not know who John Willie Higson is, but it's from Honslet and you're from South
area.
Leeds. So suddenly you go, oh, you know, 100 years after he did his stuff, I did mine. So it all makes sense to me.
Plenty of loose forwards in there because we don't have. There'll be none going into the future after Sean O'Loughlin because that's it. There's no more loose forwards. Plenty of wingers, centre
Halves.
standoffs. Yeah.
Second rowers. There's
Not
one
many
or two
props. No props. And we were discussing this, and people have mentioned many prop forwards' names of the past. No prop forwards in there, Schoey.
Foxy played a bit of prop, didn't he, when he
Well,
finished?
yeah.
He
I
played
know
everywhere.
Star was there, but anyway.
But there's no players who would say.
Hey, listen, prop forwards, they're not like donkeys anyway. They're just in the hard yards, aren't they?
Joe Thompson. Joe Thompson.
They only do the donkey work.
Made
for
three
boy,
tours,
hey.
24,
Unless
28,
you're a Lee
32.
Crooks, a bit different, Lee Crooks.
Would he be in your Hall of Fame, Crooksy? Should he be in there?
Kevin Ward.
I was going to say
Kevin
Kevin
Ward.
Ward.
Yeah, Wardy.
He's a
Manly
legend.
connection.
Grand final winner.
Yeah.
Churchill. I think he won the Churchill medal.
See, these have to be people who Schoey thinks are on his level because he is in there.
Dougie Lawton.
What?
He
You
was a
mentioned
good player.
you mentioned his name on the show
To
again.
be fair, he was a good player. To be fair,
Who?
in his day, Dougie.
Great
He could
coach.
play.
Hey, listen.
He could
Great
play.
Hey, listen, Doug Lawton was a great rugby league player, but as a person, and I
Oh,
can't.
It's
and I
not a
can't-
Hall of Person.
Yeah, it's not the whole of personality. It's
I mean,
well, what? Any listeners?
I'm not denying that. He was a great rugby league player.
well, apart from Liam Watts.
Apart from Liam Watts from his dad.
We did have plenty yesterday. Well, I'm going to have to go by and find. I did want to. Steve says Dave Topless should be in there.
But also,
Keith
I think
Fielding, David
it's mainly on the ground as well. Your international career,
Yeah,
top of
it
it
has
playing
to
up.
be.
I think we can maybe look at wing John Atkinson, maybe Sid Hines. I know I'm not going away from the forwards here, but
Well, it's people who aren't in there who should be in there in the future. It's not,
but top or like look at Steve Norton. Look at Knocker Norton.
Mike Stevenson.
But international rugby league.
Mike Stevenson won a World Cup. In
Yeah.
fact,
Well,
scored the try.
How many times did he play for Great Britain?
A few.
I'll ask.
It's Clive Sullivan in it.
Yeah.
It's Clive in it.
I'll
Yeah,
ask you a question I was going to ask, but in a different way. Is there room in the Hall of Fame for other personalities involved in rugby league, as in coaches, as in, if you look at, well, use Steve as an example, because you just mentioned him there as a player, obviously a fine player, captain of his country, but also has another role after his playing career. Should those kind of things count towards going in the Hall of Fame or not?
No.
No, I think the Hall of Fame should solely about. It's almost a circular conversation. We've gone back to how do we sell the game. got to be through what's on
Players,
the field.
it's the players.
What's on the field.
I think that more goes to an MBE or a
And I
OB
think
or a knighthood.
The
services
RFL have
to the sport
something
over
called a roll of honour,
decades. Yeah.
which there's a board when you go in Red Hall with a name on which nobody knows about. But people should be. I think there's a roll of honour for services to the game, and the Hall of Fame should only be players, and it should be limited.
I agree.
There's no harm in reissuing the criteria. There's no harm in saying who is on the board to decide who goes in.
Because there will be a point in the next 5-10 years where people go in who people will have seen their whole career, and there will be a lot of discussion about whether those people should be in the Hall of Fame or not, and it will be the likes of Kevin Sinfield or whatever, or Andy Farrell, and people will ask the question,
there has
what
to
about
be
their
a
international
criteria.
record?
Yeah, there has to be.
Because Great Britain, straight England, haven't won anything for donkey's years, going back before Schoey now.
I don't think the Baskerville Shield in 2007 counts. Does it?
About the one we drew. Is it 2002 when we drew it?
Won it on countback.
Yeah, that was good. So the Hall of Fame, when is it?
A
Again, I
week
should know
on
the answer.
Thursday.
7th of November.
It's all right. I know when the
Week
test
of
matches
Wednesday.
are, but I don't know when these things are. But I don't know. We're in the final 10 minutes of the programme. Keep coming in with your names of people coming in. I got Joe Lydon from Doige. I think that's just because he likes going with doing Joe Lydon impressions. Of,
Great player, Joseph. Great player.
Jason Robinson. Probably made a bigger impact to the sport after he left, sadly. But
Yeah, was he in the game? Was he in the game long enough to be part of it? Certainly made a massive impact.
good 10 years, yeah.
Mm.
Gary was at the. He's praising witnesses of Martin O'Fire and Kurt Sorensen inducted in their Hall of Fame. Bill Lawson's in that one as well.
I have to say the thing. Full credit to Widnes again for the social media they got out about that, because it wasn't just putting the guys in their Hall of Fame. It's the whole thing about Kurt returning to Widnes. They did that really, really well. And again, I got excited about Kurt coming back. He used to frighten the life out of me, but the way they did it, him going to dementia groups, all that kind of thing, absolutely brilliant.
They do them active very well with the Stone. I know they're pretty poor on the field with their rubbish on the field, but off the field, they're pretty good, aren't they?
That's
pretty good. Well,
the work
they're
that they
good.
do
They are,
in the community.
They are excellent, to be honest with you.
They won an award, didn't they? Didn't beat the Scrum winner, but that offload won a huge award, not just an award within rugby league. It was within sport nationally. So
Mick says, should winning the Golden Boot give you automatic entry? That's only a 1 year thing, Mick.
I think winning the Golden Boot should give you automatic entry to any test match you want to go to, including hospitality.
Let's not start that again.
Not give all players free tickets just because they want free tickets.
By the way, I got hospitality on Saturday, and so thank you very much to RFL for that. Very, very nice. I must say, it's the best steak pie I've ever had. It was steak pie, lovely mushy peas and mashed potato.
Bachelor provided it.
So yeah, so thank you very much to the RFL on Saturday. Very well looked after, like everybody was. But the steak pie was absolutely delightful.
Better than those sandwiches in the press room.
You didn't get old soup.
It wasn't soup. Actually, it's the one day we could have actually done with soup.
Well, don't
disappointing.
Don't be disappointed with my ignorance on Saturday. But I knew you were having sandwiches, but I was having wonderful steak pie.
No, it's fine.
We're grateful for anything, to be honest. We're not entitled to anything.
Some people in the press.
Of course you are. You market the game, don't you? Promote the game, yeah.
Give it a chance.
You're worth plenty.
We don't showcase the personality of the game enough, Schoey. That's the problem.
Yeah, but you want to do. You want to do. You want access to them, don't you?
We need to ask, because it's the hot topic in the papers today.
Right.
What did you do last week to upset people in Hull? I know this is a general, because people have said people are resigning. It's taking his glasses off.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be honest. Right. So when I got this through, and then, by the way, right, I'm an OBE, so get this right.
Fancies Gary Schofield.
Schoey controversy. It appears Gary Schofield MBE.
No, he's one up.
So it is. This is Nosy Parker, isn't it?
Well,
so this is that Pratt, Nosy Parker. Gary's MBE, so I'm not an MBE. Was a trifle outspoken at the Hull FC Vice President's end of season annual luncheon.
Is that news? You're outspoken.
Will it be man on something?
Just a trifle.
I'm reliably informed, right? First of all, then, I'd like to know who reliably informed you that quite a few legends connected down the years with the Black and Whites came before negative mentions, and guests were squirming in their seats. Well, it wasn't negative mentions what I was saying. It was the honest and truthful. Why I got left, why I left Hull FC, why I was sold. It's quite clear. Hull FC was skint. Hull FC had to get rid of the two main assets, which was myself and Lee Crooks. My contract at Hull FC was worth £22,000. I didn't complete that contract because I didn't play the 18, so I missed out on £1,500. So I got £20,500 over a 12-month period because I played in first team, I played for the Colts, I played for the under-24s, I played for Great Britain. Lee Crooks signed for £16,000. Lee completed all these. So for two youngsters, they invested £36,500 if my maths are right. Right? So then, I said, right then, the Hull FC directors wasn't honest with us. They told us they only could afford £10,000 contracts. We believed them. 3 weeks later, they went out and signed Gary Price. They signed him for 20 grand. So me and Crooks went knocking on the door, asked for a little bit more, 5 grand a piece, said no. So, but we knew, Crooksy knew from a point of view that he was on his way out because they didn't want him anymore. And then also too, Hull had lost their ambition. Leeds came knocking on the door for me, and it was simple. And what I said was, the investment what Hull FC made in us for £36,500, they sold the pair of us for £333,000, right? So the investment, what they paid out for us, as I've said, £36,500, their investment back on us, they got £296,000 back. And I'm not the Judas in this, because that money did not go to Hull FC. It went to Roy Wardby and his Shopper Check Company. And I found that out from an ex-director at Hull and also to the chairman at Leeds at the time. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, in Bernard Colby. And I was open and honest. And people wasn't squirming because people wanted to know the truth. And I told them the truth last week at the VPs. And by the way, the chairman of the vice presidents hasn't resigned because of my open honesty. He has resigned because of the act what he booked, which was Bernard Cribbins. Is the worst.
Bernie Clifton.
Bernie Clifton.
No, you're going too far.
Bernie Clifton, who was at,
excellent Helen's winger.
I've been to hundreds and hundreds of dinners, and everybody who was at that luncheon last Sunday were absolutely disgusted with his act. And by the way, me and Lee Crooks and Danny Wasbrook, by the way, who was on the question answer, who was very, very good. Me and Lee Crooks did it for nothing. What we did it for, they put us up overnight in the same room, me and Crooks. They bought, I think over the afternoon, I think we had 6 pints on there.
And
the main I'll tell you. And also as well, the people were disgusted because of the main act. That's why he's resigned, because everybody was absolutely disgusted the way it was. It was absolutely awful. And he got paid 750 quid. Right? He got paid, I'm only being honest here now. And this prat, right, Nosy Parker, who's saying I caused controversy, all I was open and honest. He hasn't resigned because of me. He's resigned because of the rubbish that was in that afternoon. Well, and I've spoken to one ex-player who was there, and I've asked him the opinion of what people said, what people thought about me, and the question answer. And he said, "Schoey, I've had no complaints whatsoever." So there you go. There's the open and honesty.
There you go.
So definitive answer.
Have we labelled anyone there? I don't think so. Fingers crossed. I was going to. Well, back in the old days when I was at Radio Yorkshire doing Sport on Sunday, I was going to do a feature called "You Can't Label the Dead," but someone said I couldn't do that, sadly.
So are you saying that Nosy Parker got something wrong?
He's got it all wrong, as he normally does.
That's not really news, though, is it?
As he normally does. He started off by saying an MBE.
I've got to tell you, because we're coming to the end of the show, we might have upset a proper rugby league legend who we're all scared of. Big Jim Mills has been on.
All right.
Don't laugh at Widnes. Their record in the game is better than most.
We didn't laugh.
We didn't laugh at them this season.
No. We didn't laugh at them at all.
No, we don't laugh at Widnes at all. We just
said how great
Widnes have been.
Yeah.
They are off the field,
absolutely.
And the way they do the social media and the way they market and promote their club,
and the way they bring young kids through.
Absolutely, yeah. So we won't do that, Jim. No way, mate. Unfortunately, you've just been very ordinary on the field this year.
How about Jim Mills in the Hall of Fame? If there isn't a prop forward,
careful, he's watching.
Go on, Jim.
Let's be honest. Who's going to argue?
I think we're just about done. I don't think we've upset anyone today, have we?
That's a shame.
Well, we might have upset the RFL and maybe some of our colleagues within the
all we've done is tried to be constructive about the state of the sport at the moment. If you don't face up to reality, how can you change anything?
I think as well we come up with some good. We come up with ideas and this sort of thing as well for people to debate and have a look at, because if you always keep doing what you keep doing, you're not going to get nowhere, are you?
So we're going to go buy a tent from the famous Army and Navy stores. I think they're still going. Stick Schoey outside Anfield. He'll sign some autographs for you. Just chuck him 20p.
He's checking 40 and he won't sign an autograph.
Don't forget, share the video on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, and we'll pick a couple out. You can even have the one that's got coffee cup marks on now. So Tom's been using it to rest his cup on throughout the show. It's only been on Darling Watini's Lesnak or whoever that is. Is it him? Jake Collins on one side. Who is that?
That's Cody Nicarima.
Cody Nicarima.
Who we like because he's small.
Well, you see, I didn't interview either of them last week. So
I think you're taller than he is.
I enjoyed interviewing him.
This is where this program gets good, because I've got to go over there and turn everything off because no one knows how to do it. So these three are going to sit here, and we'll be back next Monday. Everything will be back to normal. We'll be excited as 25,000 people have come to Anfield. Last time I was there was more people watching England North versus New Zealand All Blacks at Rugby Union, so there better be more than 25,000 people there. Although we can't guarantee a special guest appearance by Bruce Grobler, but probably that choir and someone doing the anthems. And can we get any famous Liverpool-based celebrities to turn up?
Jimmy Tarbuck.
Jimmy Tarbuck, he's free.
He's a big Rugby League fan, Jimmy Tarbuck.
Is he?
Get him?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Because when we beat Aussies in '92, he sent me a telegraph after we won the Australians.
No,
he sent me a telegraph. You know the old telegraphs of them days? Yeah. Jimmy Tarbuck, big Rugby League fan. Jimmy Tarbuck.
Get him on social media this week.
Yeah.
Get him on CFAX.
Tell him the Wentworth Golf Club to all get to Anfield.
You use CFAX as well, John.
6 years ago, CFAX left us.
Jimmy Tarbuck.
Because I'm living in the 21st century, not the 18th.
Big Rugby League fan, Jimmy Tarbuck. I can reassure you.
This programme officially now titled this week, Jimmy Tarbuck sent me a telegram. Right, I'm going to turn everything off.
Thank you for watching, everyone.
Join us next week. We'll do the same again. To all our YouTube viewers, thank you very much. I'll press that X. You'll be going away. Goodbye. And to all everyone on Facebook, here's my hand. And here's me pressing the end video button. And that is, well, that, I believe, don't swear yet. We're done.